Hello, and welcome to to Two Girls, One Q&A.
No!
Hello, and welcome to the Patron Q&A for the America's Greatest Otaku video. Thank you so much for being here. I know, it's been a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I wanted to record this like 3 weeks after the episode came out.
Mm-hmm.
But then that third week was holiday week.
Yeah, we've been busy.
So this is our first, kind of the first chance we've had to actually sit down and do this. So thank you all, as always, for your continued patience.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thank you for sending in questions. Thank you for sending in good questions.
Yeah, as always.
Okay, sorry, I'm like still picking bagel out of my teeth. I just ate. I'm sure you all want to know that. Also, hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm Hazel's wife, in case you've forgotten in the time that we were gone.
It has been a while, yeah.
Like, you know, just in case you don't have object permanence, or like if you don't care.
Or if you have better things to remember than...
Okay, today's first question comes to us from Male Tears. Now that more footage of Sonic Prime has been shown, has your excitement for the cartoon gone up, or perhaps gone down? Will you still be checking it out?
I feel like I haven't looked too closely.
I haven't really looked at the new footage. I did see that like a lot more of the characters are in it than I thought.
I was really surprised by that. I feel like most Sonic reboots really try to keep it to just like the nucleus of the Sonic franchise.
Even the Sonic Boom cartoon had a couple of shadow cameos. This is going to be the first time Rouge has been in a cartoon since Sonic X.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So I would say I'm getting more excited. I'm definitely going to check it out, if nothing else, just the first few episodes. I like Sonic, so I say that, so I'll probably watch it all even if it sucks.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen all of Sonic Boom. So
there's a lot of Sonic Boom,
There is a lot of Sonic Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple answer, but I'll definitely watch it.
Yeah.
DNYS says, question for both of you. How do you feel about the AI image tools that have been gaining a lot more attention of late? As an alternative, if you don't want to weigh in on discourse, have you seen Turning Red, and how did you feel about it?
I haven't seen Turning Red.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I feel like my opinions on AI art are about what you expect. I think the technology looks really exciting on paper until you think about the fact that those AIs have to be trained on something.
Yeah, it's hard because I think that there are ways to ethically source training materials.
But I feel like the kind of sample size that an AI needs to be generating the stuff that people are trying to generate from it is invariably going to be so much bigger than they can possibly ethically source.
Yeah, and so that's why we're seeing what we're seeing now. I do think it's... I'm curious to see if this is going to cause people to become a little more critical of our copyright laws.
Yeah.
This certainly has made me a little more aware of how important things like copyright are, especially in terms of like indie artists.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also like, man, it shouldn't take literal robot theft for people to value like intellectual property.
Right, yeah.
I've always joked like, oh, I wish copyright didn't exist, but when I say that, I mean like for Disney.
It's like the same way that we talk about like humor needing to punch up and not down. Like I feel like that's how copyright law should be approached.
Yeah. You steal up, not down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's already been a lot of discussion around it that's a lot more intelligent than anything I could say, but I feel pretty negatively about it right now just because I feel like everyone's in a rat race to steal the most art as fast as possible before anyone can catch them.
And like we're already seeing like really embarrassing bands releasing embarrassing albums with embarrassingly AI generated album art, and it's like the idea of being proud of that is basically just admitting like, yeah, here's this album art, it's utterly fucking meaningless. It literally has no meaning that we can perceive. It's just a bunch of shit that looks like stuff from afar.
Yeah.
And then when you get close enough, it's like, none of this means anything.
Yeah.
Like, I think the funniest example is, like, the people who are using it to generate anime art. Mm-hmm. It's like, you look at it, and it's like, at first glance, if you, like, have absolutely no, like, sense for what art looks like, and you have, like, a head injury or something, it looks like anime art, but with literally any scrutiny, it just, like, completely, the image just falls apart.
The thing is, I see people saying that, and I agree sometimes, but I have seen plenty of AI generated anime art that is honestly, like, totally serviceable.
Well, I guess, but what I mean is more so, like, when I say it doesn't hold up to scrutiny, I don't mean, like, oh, why is there an extra, like, finger on this hand? I more so just mean that, like, there's not, like, any, how to say, like, the kinds of things that people are generating is scrubbed completely clean of any kind of, like, authorial trace, right? Like,
I agree. I think, okay. So,
and I know that doesn't matter for people.
Yeah, it doesn't matter for people. That's one thing. Another thing is, like, sorry, cards on the table. I've seen it a lot for, like, ecchi and hentai.
Right, yeah.
And it makes me so aware of how hentai artists draw the same 3 poses
right.
over and over with waifu of the week.
Yeah.
No shade. They're on that hustle. But
right.
It is pretty funny to see, like, AI-generated ecchi art and be like, yeah, anyone could have drawn this.
Right, yeah. Like,
everyone has drawn this.
I think that's kind of more the thing for me, is that I think it does also, unfortunately, have the side effect of showing where the zeitgeist is with regards to art style.
Well, the thing that's always going to be interesting about AIs and robots is, unless you actively put in protocol to go against this, it's always going to reflect human bias.
Right.
It's like how you have to train AI to not be fucking, like, anti-black. Like, automatic machines that don't see when you put a black hand under it because it was trained on white hands.
Right.
Like, you have to consider human biases when you're programming AI and, like, just learning algorithms.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're going to learn based on the majority.
Right. And then that becomes, or not even the majority, but just, like, the expected, like, the default.
The default is a better way of putting it. I don't know. I think AI art is going to get really boring really fast. If anything, the thing I'm saddest about, all ethics aside, is that AI art used to be really funny because it was fucked up. Yeah. And, like, it
was really fascinating.
It's like how people must have felt when they found The Room funny before The Room became a cult classic.
Right,
you know,
right,
like,
yeah.
Now that he knows that everyone thinks it's funny, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a little funny, but...
Yeah, it's like comparing, like, something like Birdemic to, like, Sharknado, which is this, like, cold, calculated attempt at a bad movie.
Yeah, now AI art is, like, just good enough that it's not funny, but it's not good enough that it's good. Yeah. So I'm just like, ugh, now it's boring, which is the worst thing it could be.
Exactly.
So that's sad. I'll miss the days of fucked up AI art. But not that much. I can just draw my own fucked up art if I miss it that bad. Next question comes to us from Beatman, who says, Hazel, where the heck is my free PS5? I'm waiting.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's a whole thing. I had to talk about it in, like, a tweet or two and in some posts, but I also got that fucking Telegram PS5 thing. And, like, I wasn't even gonna fucking comment about it. I was just gonna let it run its course because it's inevitable and obviously, like, it's not real. But I saw a few people who, like, were adding me about it urgently.
Really?
And I was like...
Hazel's the last YouTuber on planet Earth who would ever do a PS5 giveaway.
No. They weren't adding it. Like, they thought it was real. I mean that they were tagging me on Twitter, like, hey, just so you know, this is happening.
Gotcha.
That's okay. Like, well, yeah, of course it is. It's happening to everybody else.
Right. Well, I thought people were being urgent about it because other people were falling for it.
Well, right. I mean, I'm sure, like, one or two people for a second has, like, a brief second of being like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I understand understand that kind of thing preys on a sense of desperation.
Yeah.
But also, the PS5 doesn't even have any games.
Yeah,
so
there's no
what do you
games.
fucking want it for so bad anyway?
Yeah, Hazel doesn't even have a PS5 to begin with.
No.
So. Actual Natanong. Do you know about the character Biko? She's a character from a rare one-shot doujin that got popular that the artist drew her more. She's a white-haired girl who lost an eye and leg from a car accident. She plays guitar and smokes a lot. She's created by Yoshida On, pen name Romantic Fool, who you may know as the artist for the Izuna games. Her creation was inspired by a friend who lost her arm from an accident, but the fact doesn't bother her. I find her cool. I like her design and attitude. I find it neat that people liked a character from a one-shot doujin so much. I've never heard of this character.
Yeah, I had to look her up, but she's like, I really like her design. I think she's really cool.
I want to see her.
Let's see if I can search it up really quickly.
Also, I'm sorry, I don't know what actual Natanong means. Oh, she's cute.
I assumed it was just actual question.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, actual. Okay,
Yeah,
I see.
Right. Yeah, I like her design a lot.
I thought it was the title of something.
No. I just assumed that it was Tagalog.
Yeah.
And then worked from there.
Yeah, she's got a cute design. I've never heard of her.
I feel like instances like that where like a character from like a one-off doujin winds up getting disproportionately popular, like it happens like kind of once in a blue moon. Mm-hmm. It's always really fascinating when it does. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like the basis for like Katoa Shoujo, which like everybody's talked about, but stuff like that is interesting because I think we sometimes forget that there is a market for doujinshi that's just like not based on anything.
Yeah.
Just because so much of what we know it as.
I guess that's just indie comics now.
Well, right. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that occupies the same space as like the porn. You know? It's often interchangeable.
Sorry, I laughed really weird a minute ago, and it's because I was in the middle of choking while I
laughed.
Oh,
no. I didn't even notice.
So if the audience noticed it, don't rewind.
Okay.
Don't rewind and listen to it again. No, not you, the audience.
Okay. They won't either.
Don't do it. I don't want to hear about it.
Okay.
I've drawn attention to it now. Let's keep going. Habibi says, this video gave me such nostalgia. It reminded me of my high school years in the middle to late aughts. Anime and manga was way more accessible in South America back then, but you still had to be crafty. A lot of anime related media, swapping between friends, handmade merch, organizing microcosmic conventions, just to be your true otaku self for a few hours. Do you think those last years of the otaku movement that you mentioned are also influenced by people like us not having the energy to do all that stuff anymore? Being an otaku requires passion and energy, and all those aughts anime fans were out of high school, going to college, or getting jobs in the 2010s. Certainly, I was barely involved in anything anime during my college years. I was not in the right headspace. Once I started to work and having some free time again and money to spend, I went back to my old otaku self a bit.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and something that I wish I had connected the dots on a little bit more.
I mean, I'm sure it's partly age and partly because it's like more accessibility equals less passion almost.
Right. Yeah. That is true as well. Yeah. Like
we're less just hungry for it.
You don't need to be as hungry to get your fill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, you kind of touch on this a little bit in the video, but it was like the monolith of just like being an anime fan and connecting to anyone else just because they were an anime fan. Like, I don't think that exists the same way it does anymore because there's so much and it's all so accessible.
Right.
And I think that people's like raw, like just need to meet other people who knew the word anime really drove a lot of that early like passion. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that, I think. Luggy says, "Hi Hazel, amazing video as always. As someone living in France, I find it very interesting how different our experiences with anime is, considering that it was and still is far more widespread than in the US. I think we're still the second country that buys the most manga in the world, right behind Japan, although maybe that's changed since. Crazy to think it's all because anime was cheaper to buy back in the 80s, 90s. Now we've got stuff like City Hunter getting its exclusive French-made live-action film, whoa, or Grandizer getting its own French comic. Definitely something worth looking into if you're interested in comparing anime's different influences around the world. With anime's now worldwide popularity, do you miss those older days when anime was more niche? Every time I watch one of your videos on old otaku culture, I see this awkward yet homey community that seems nowadays lost."
So really interesting insight about France's relationship to anime. I talked about it in a comment after the video came out that I think I didn't do quite a good enough job delineating that what I was talking about was specifically like centered around America, but also kind of like the UK, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why it's so hard for me to condense that down, is like if I mince my words on it every single time, the script gets really repetitive.
Yeah, a lot of people took issue with Hazel saying the West.
Right, and I think that's totally fair.
That's valid,
it's something that I'm trying to move away from, but there's really just no other good shorthand for what I'm talking about.
English-speaking company, but then that sounds weird because there are plenty of countries that aren't England and America that have like a pretty large English-speaking population.
Yeah. There are places all over that have a high English literacy, right?
It's kind of hard to come up with a term for the countries where anime did not take off right away.
Right, yeah.
But, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that City Hunter was getting a French movie.
Yeah. I want to say that City Hunter also got like a Hong Kong action adaptation in the 90s as well.
That sounds great.
In fact, I think that's the one where Jackie Chan dresses up as Chun-Li for a second.
Yeah. That sounds right to me.
Yeah, I really need to see more Hong Kong action movies, just in general.
We gotta get started. We gotta do the one that Gino did.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to see.
What was that again?
What is it? I almost called it Police Story, but that's not what it's called.
No, it's
I have it downloaded.
Yeah,
it's around.
Our friend Gino made a video about it. Go watch.
Yeah.
Ash Wetzel says, "Where were your favorite places to buy manga back when they were less available? Like in the early aughts. I tended to get them from Barnes & Noble when I was younger. I didn't visit a Borders until they were about to close down."
It was always Borders for me.
Yeah,
it was like 2 towns out from me. But there was also a bookstore in my hometown that had a smaller selection. They were called Copperfields.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're definitely still around. Yeah. They're kind of scattered all across Northern California, I think, or at least like the kind of broader Sonoma County, Marin area. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the one in Petaluma had a pretty, like, comparatively sizable manga collection. And then they had a downstairs that had a used book section, and I found a lot of like really weird shit down there that had been like long since out of print.
Yeah, I mean, even the more recent times we've gone there, there's some crazy shit down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always Borders for me. I don't know if this is actually factual or just my child memory, but I feel like in my memory, Barnes & Noble used to be kind of the more fancy bookstore, and because it was like fancier, like it still had manga, but maybe not as much as Borders.
Yeah, well, Borders had the exclusivity deal with Tokyopop, and I think that kind of inherently like
limited the category. Yeah. No, Borders is where all the broke young weebs would sit in the aisle and read manga on the floor and block everyone.
so socially awkward and self-conscious as a kid that whenever the teens would be doing that, I would just be like, well, I don't get to look at the manga this time. I
always did my best to move aside when I saw someone wanting to look at the shelf I was near, or I would take the manga and try to go sit somewhere else, sort of. And then like kids would just talk to each other in the manga aisle, like, oh yeah, I love that one, or yeah, the art in this one's good. I never had any of that. Yeah. I miss it. There was a intimacy that is gone now. Ash Wetzel says, I just read that, sorry. Ash Whistle already said that. Sorry. Joe says, another stellar video. I think I was fortunate to be living in New York City during 2011, so my recollection of anime culture was no doubt skewed, since there was always a place to be catered to there as an anime fan. Having perspective from life outside of a larger city during that era is really valuable.
Yeah, I definitely think that mine was a little bit as well. Like, it was almost like I kind of, my relationship to anime almost had, like, a double life, in a sense, because, like, Petaluma was, like, it's not an extremely small town or anything. It definitely had, like, a lot of weeaboos, but, like, the access to it was definitely limited if you weren't going out to, like, the big cities.
Same for me where I was in SoCal.
Yeah, so, like, it wasn't too hard for me to get out to where it was, but it also wasn't exactly ubiquitous either.
Yeah. Juan Trevino says, great video as always. It's always a joy to learn about an odd little piece of media and the culture surrounding it. Relatively low-budget reality TV shows like this feel like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream-esque tours of human nature. I think they're wonderful little time capsules. Spotting a giant outdoor Scott Pilgrim movie poster in one of the clips punched me in the chest. Question, do you have any certified otaku spots you've wanted to visit? Either featured in the show or elsewhere?
So, given how broad the definition of otaku spot gets in that show, I will say I would still really love to visit the Flint Woods Monster Museum, even though I know it's very small. I know it's very limited. I'd still like to see it just to say that I've seen it.
I want to go to the shrine that has the Lucky Star twins all over it.
Oh, like in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which shrine is that? Do you remember?
That's Washinomiya.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is like something I definitely want to do. I think I may have said it elsewhere before, but I want to do like a big retrospective on Lucky Star, but I kind of refuse to do it until I can go there because it's such a major crux of something that I want to talk about.
Someday. Are there any certified otaku spots in America I want to go to? Not really.
I think it'd be fun to go to the Times Square, or I don't know if it's Times Square, but just the big Nintendo store.
In
New York City. Yeah,
I want to go there someday.
Just because like it's I know that, like, the whole thing with stores, like, on that, like, strip or whatever is that they try to be really extravagant. I think that kind of design is really cute and really alluring.
Yeah, it's sad because Volks used to have a California storefront.
Really?
They still have a distribution center, but no more storefront, I don't think. It's like, I would have killed to go look at Volk stalls in person.
Yeah, I wonder,
I think the cost of just keeping a storefront open was...
Do you know when was it during pandemic it shut down?
I think it was a while ago, actually. Even before pandemic. I could be wrong, though. Calais or Callie or Cal says, oh god, the part with the Delphi dreams made me cringe so fucking hard as someone who owned a lot of those a few years ago. They're vinyl, not resin, so they can't technically break per se, but they can easily stain, so the thought of having to clean oily fingerprints off of something I paid big bucks for that got manhandled with my permission makes me violently ill. Without my permission, sorry. Have you read the old anime blog Colony Drop? They had an article about this show as well that was much more critical.
Yeah, so I read some of Colony Drop's stuff. I really want to take the deep dive and just kind of like make a habit out of reading through their back catalog. I think they're Zimmerit now, or at least people who were working on Colony Drop are now working on Zimmerit, or I'm not really too sure. But the work that I've seen from them is really impressive. I think that the kind of approach to the history that they take is very thorough and shows like a really deep love for anime. But I also think that often with that can kind of breed that kind of like just like that kind of old head mentality that I think can sometimes be kind of noxious, if I'm being perfectly honest. I get it though. I'm sure approaching the medium from such a fundamentally different standpoint than the kids who are just excited about the shows they like. Mm-hmm. Makes for a lot of cognitive dissonance. So I get it. But also it's like, I don't know, I just don't really, especially so far removed now, I don't really see any reason in being especially critical of AGO. Because like, at the end of the day, it's like the byproduct of a lot of people's passion. And if that passion manifests itself in a way that's like less thorough, I don't really think that makes it less valid.
Yeah, any criticism I would have of AGO in retrospect would be towards like Tokyopop itself.
Yeah.
I think that as for what it showcases and like the ethos and the spirit behind it, I think it was really sweet. It's also just nice to see like an actually genuinely diverse look at otaku in America. Like they showed people of all different ages, like classes, backgrounds. Like it's touching to, like, I feel like if this kind of thing was made nowadays, it would all only be like huge artists and influencers
and
influencers. Yeah,
because I think the funny thing about, and this is something that I don't think quite clicked together for me while I was writing, but like I think the version of that we got was like they had whoever they could rope in who was like an online artist or who had worked with Tokyopop, but like I almost feel like all of the stops that they did and all of the different restaurants is almost like the version, like the modern version of that would be the kind of like back and forth benefit of an influencer appearing in something like that, where it's like, all right, like
we can show this off, and
we can show you off, and then your fans will give us the kickback, and then vice versa. Like I feel like that's the exact same kind of exchange, that kind of like social commerce that happened with a lot of those restaurants.
It's just it's touching to me to see some 12-year-old girl from bumfuck Midwest America treated as just as much a passionate otaku as middle-aged guy who spent $10K on his figure collection. Like, I don't know. I think that's a anthropologically beautiful aspect of America's Greatest Otaku.
Absolutely.
Also, this is not actually for this question asker, but rather information for people who don't know. Dolphy dreams, they're not made out of resin like most strung dolls. They have an internal plastic skeleton, kind of like a Gundam, if you've ever seen a big Gundam, that then soft vinyl pieces.
I think it's the real grade Gundams that have the internal frame.
Yeah. So if Stu had theoretically dropped one, he could break the internal frame. But the cool thing about Dolphys is that they make all their individual parts incredibly accessible to purchase. So it's like, oh, you broke the hip piece, you can just replace the hip piece.
That would have been like a 3-month wait for her.
Back in the day, that was still no small inconvenience. Also, Dolphys stain like a bitch. Platon Pizza 3000 says, glad to see you slowly coming back. Have you read the Yu-Gi-Oh! Original manga? It has very impressive artwork and a genuine story that gave me a passion for board games, TCG, and JRPG when I was 10 years old.
I fucking love the what people refer to as like the season 0 of Yu-Gi-Oh! The one that they cut from broadcast in the States that's based on those first arc basically of the manga. I mean, I've read more of the manga than I have the anime, but I remember finding out it existed through Little Karibo. Like I remember at the time the video that he did where he just like basically did like an abridged version of the comic was like really fascinating to me because like you know, obviously I'd seen the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime before, so coming into the abridged series, it wasn't like I was getting it for the first time in that format. But that being the case for how I experienced the like quote-unquote season 0 manga was so fascinating to me. Funny.
Is season 0 where he's young?
No, he just looks smaller and weirder in those early seasons, or that early season in that early show.
Megumi Ogata voices some iteration of Yugi, but
really?
I think I don't know.
You know, that may have been a different production from a different studio. I'm not really sure.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is weird because obviously I've seen Yu-Gi-Oh! In the anime orbit since I was a kid. I had a lot of friends addicted to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series. But I know, like, weirdly little about it, and every time I, like, see more about it, it doesn't paint me any clearer of a picture of what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like. Like...
So the thing about the first season and the first few volumes of the manga is that they're not all about duel monsters.
Yeah.
It's just, like, a bunch of different card games.
Yeah.
And then eventually they see where the money is, and then they pivot to the card game.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, someone in the Studio yalllllll server is a big Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, so, like, someone else sent, like, a screenshot of a character talking about, like, if I lose this tournament, I'm gonna have to go to work in the gulag or whatever, something like that. And they were like, is this real? And they were like, yeah, it's real.
That kind of thing is where the kaiji influence really comes through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely seems like kaiji stakes.
Yeah.
Sega Man says, what piece of media would you like to see get an anime spin-off, and from what studio or staff? Like how Cyberpunk Edgerunners doesn't adapt the story of the 2077 game, but tells an original story set in the same city with different characters.
Just because I think it would be really, really weird, I kind of want to say Super Mario Brothers.
A Mario spin-off anime.
Yeah, because, like, how would they do that? What would that look like?
I would be curious just in general about how, like, a modern-day Mario anime would go.
Yeah.
Like, Shigeru Miyamoto is so allergic to plots that, like, I'm curious what the studio could do with it.
Yeah. They'd have to make Luigi blue again, though. That's my only stipulation.
The only blue life that matters. This isn't your question, but I would like to see, like, an anime adaptation, like a new one of Dokyusei.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In full. Like, I want every route adapted.
Yeah. I really want to see that OVA series, even though I know it's, like, majority porn.
Yeah. No, I want to see, like, a full anime adaptation that, like, really captures the humor. Like, it's already funny in writing, but I feel like if the visual comedy could, like, kind of live up to the writing comedy of Dokyusei, it would be a really funny anime.
Yeah, I gotta see Cat Bro in full 24 frames of animation.
Cat Bro. Maverick says, hey Hazel, great videos always. I think about this one as it relates to con activity, but generally speaking, did you ever end up buying something or doing something for the sake of being able to say I did X at Y location? For example, at a steampunk convention that no longer runs as of 2017, I bought a copy of Gungrave that I then had the spine of steam-powered giraffe sign the front and booklet of. To date, I've played about 5 minutes of said copy of Gungrave and have not listened to any of that band's material since then, but buying an obscure used game and getting something signed seemed like things I just had to do regardless of my actual attachment to the material. Hope you had a happy Halloween.
Oh, God. And a happy Thanksgiving.
And a happy New
Jesus.
Year. That's an insane story, by the way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't. The thing is, I actually haven't been to that many cons. And when I do, it's usually just to meet up with the friends and then go out to eat with them.
See, the thing is, I could totally see myself being like, oh, dude, I've got to get Markiplier to sign this Five Nights at Freddy's doujinshi I just bought.
Sure.
But then I'm at a convention and I see the lines and it's like, I'm not even going to stand in a line like that for something I genuinely want to do.
Right.
Let alone for the funny of it.
I do feel like I must have bought something at some con or something just for the novelty of it, but I couldn't think of one off the top of my head.
Our good friend Christina, who's a big fan of the Rune Factory series, got a friend to get her copy of Rune Factory Frontier signed by Johnny Young Bosch.
Or was it Yuri Lowenthal?
No, it was Bosch.
Right.
Who's
They're the same guy.
Famous for a lot of things. So Rune Factory is kind of almost an obscure pull for his roles, and apparently he commented like, "Oh wow, Rune Factory" when it was handed to him.
That rocks.
I thought that was pretty damn cute. I know you weren't just asking about getting signatures.
Yeah,
but now that's what's coming to mind for me.
Yeah.
I did have... this is a little bit perverted, sorry. I was at a Proto Men concert, and I have a huge, like, platonic crush on the front man of the Proto Men, Raul Panther. And obviously they were drinking water bottles on stage, and he, like, tossed, like, a bottle cap, and my sister grabbed it and handed it to me and said, "Here you go, here's Raul Panther's bottle cap." So I had him sign it after the show, like, kind of as a joke. And I was like, "Sorry, this is probably a really weird thing to sign." He's like, "I've definitely signed weirder, so it's fine."
Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything offhand, unfortunately. Sorry for the bad answer.
Bad answer. Bad Q&A.
That's me.
Unpledged. Unsubscribed. Blocked. Elias Rosner says, do you think anime and manga fans still envision themselves as a part of a niche subculture rather than a robust but maybe not dominant cultural force? Like there's a dissonance between what is and what is perceived? Or is it like the difference between being a Marvel/MCU fan and being a Marvel Comics/general comics fan? There's plenty of overlap, and the former is a cultural force, but the latter is a far more niche hobby than the former makes it seem. That's a good way of putting it. Separately, and you don't need to answer both these questions, AGO made me think about the insular nature of fan cultures and how anime in particular has kind of been stuck with the label, rightly or wrongly. Do you think that stigma is still there, like it is, sadly, for Western comics? I use these touchstones because they seem similar to me as a fan of both.
I feel like it's all a matter of scale. Like, when you look at anime as like a force, you know, there are plenty of people who say are really invested in film, who know about Studio Ghibli. There are plenty of people who are just kind of orbiting this kind of mainstream sort of nerd culture offshoot that dominates things like the MCU, and then also like major anime touchstones like Dragon Ball and Boku no Hero Academia. But then, like, you know, with anything, the deeper you go and the more niche it gets. But I feel like sometimes it can be hard to have a sense of scale for just how deep in it you are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it even just varies depending on geographical location, I feel like in Washington or SoCal, depending on where I am, I'm like kind of almost embarrassed to have like any nerd merch because I'm like, everyone here likes this shit. Like, right. It's cringe. But then like when I was in Orange County, people got like excited about me having like a Pokemon in my windshield.
Right.
And it's like, Pokemon, like everyone likes Pokemon, but it's like you kind of lose the sense of scale of like, yeah, in some places it actually is still kind of niche.
Yeah, it's kind of why I try to push back a little bit against this idea that I like, you know all the really obscure stuff or whatever, because like the thing about any hobby is that you don't know what you don't know about. Inherently, that is just kind of a big question mark. And I certainly can't presume that the things that I know about are where that ends. There are still times where I stumble across something that I realize is like far more important than I ever realized, or things that I hadn't heard about that totally recontextualize other things that feel obvious once I know them.
Yeah. Well, the nature of like niche subcultures these days too is like people have nothing more than to base their entire personality around something that not a lot of other people know about. So
yeah, look at me. It's the basis of my entire YouTube channel.
Yeah. But it's like inherently anytime you think you've stumbled across something that nobody else has found, suddenly you find out that there's like a rich, robust, like 20-person Discord server that's documented every single thing there is to know about it already.
Yeah, that can be difficult for me because I often feel like an interloper in those communities, and it feels kind of weird for me to almost like invade that space, this kind of sacred ground.
Well, it's like the smaller it is, the more protective people are about how outsiders perceive their interests. So it can be kind of scary to trade on those sacred grounds.
Yeah. Especially when it's things that are kind of like context sensitive, so to say.
Yeah, definitely. Nama says, how do you embrace the cringe and be free? I still get embarrassingly embarrassed at myself and the things I enjoy and at others, despite me knowing it's doing bad things to my brain. Any advice? Also, hope you and Alyssa are doing well. We are. Thank you.
This is hard because I feel like it's simultaneously kind of a lifelong struggle and also like something that I think I kind of have compartmentalized somewhere along the way, almost without realizing.
I think for me, it's one part it being such a compulsion to be cringe that it's like I can't fight against my nature too much. Right. Another part is finding like a couple of people who are like more shameless than you and letting them rub off on you, you know? It's like you gotta find someone who's free already. Right, and then you free yourself with them. Yeah.
I feel like the only thing I can really say is that, like, you don't really need to share all of your interests. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like that's almost kind of like, not very good advice because I feel like it doesn't really get to the root of the problem. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, like, it can kind of help when I engage with something that I know is kind of like cringy, quote unquote, or whatever. Or that I have a quote-unquote cringy reaction to it. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of stew on it for a while, and I don't really feel the obligation to talk to anybody about it. And then it just kind of becomes something that's a bit more normal in my mind. Yeah. And that's the point where talking about it is just kind of easier. I also feel like surrounding yourself with people that are pretty, like, neutral about that sort of thing in general is generally pretty productive.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, whenever I've gotten into something that I was kind of embarrassed of liking, like, for example, Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah. It's like, you know, I don't mind people knowing that I like it, but obviously I'm not about to word vomit publicly in front of everyone about it. Well, maybe I will sometimes, but to the degree that I wanted to, I was like, well, I'm just going to join the subreddit. And then it's like, that kind of gave me my fill, you know? To just join and I've done that with dolls too. Like I actually go by a different name in doll communities, not because I don't want people to know who I am, but it kind of makes me feel freed up of like, okay, I don't have like the burden of having to be me. I can just be the me that enjoys this thing, and I want to talk about it with other people who enjoy it.
You don't have to be you in all your totality. You can just be that interest specifically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not that I necessarily recommend compartmentalizing your interests into 20 different personalities or anything like that. But, you know, if it helps, I think anonymity can be a blessing in situations like that. Like, I've kind of afforded myself the right to be anonymous now and then. Right. If nothing else, just so that I don't feel quite so embarrassed of myself. Having to be like, oh yeah, and also here's like 2 clicks away from like my job. like it doesn't have to be like that. Not every social media makes everyone think everything has to be in the same place, but it's like I'm kind of trying to go back to my roots and like find communities.
And I feel like there's almost kind of a negative stigma against anonymity. Like there's this implication that you must really want to hide whatever it is that you're not putting out in front of everybody with your full name attached to it.
Yeah.
But like,
no, to me, it's just like it frees me up to not cringe at myself. Yeah. And not feel like everyone is privy to my whole entire life all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's my recommendation. Ashley Wintermute Williams says, hi, Hazel and Alyssa. I was wondering, have you ever seen or even heard of The Story of 15 Boys or Hitomi no Naka no Shounen, Jugo Shounen, Hyoryuki, according to Google? It's an adaptation of the Jules Verne book 2 Years Vacation and was my first experience with anime in the early/mid-90s. I can still hear the warble of the VHS I would beg my mother to rent from the local gas station every other day. Whoa, what the hell? I haven't heard of any of that.
So I had to look into it. At first I assumed because it's based on a Jules Verne book that it was a World Masterpiece Theater anime, but it's not.
Really?
However, the composer, I think, is a little bit of like a late career Ghibli collaborator. Like their like 2010s output.
The composer?
Yeah, I think he did some compositions for their like 2010s movies, some of them. At least one of them. I can say that much. And also the ending was done by Tomoko Tane, who did the ending of, oh my gosh. The song is called Mermaid in Blue. What is the anime called? Alfie of the Blue Sea or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
That ending song rocks. We used it at the end of our Nikki and I's second Burned In set that we did for the Goblin Bunker live streams.
Hell yeah.
So that's what I know about it after a quick Google search.
Man, I didn't even know you could rent VHSs from gas stations.
Yeah, I feel like there's never mind. I don't want to dox us.
Bimmy says, "Hi Hazel and Alyssa. I have a really close high school friend moving in a day or two out of Orange County to Oregon. And I've been talking with other friends about moving out of my apartment into a house with them. Consequently, I've been getting some moving blues. So naturally, I rewatched your How I Spent My Summer Vacation video again. Absolutely love the AGO video, by the way. To get to the point, I'm obsessed with the cable management in the intro of that video. Do you have any tips on how to get good at hiding cables like that? I wouldn't say my current setup is a complete mess, but it could look less like a fire hazard in the back."
Honestly, this is like my 4th or 5th iteration, just between moves and having to re-up everything, and I'm already thinking about tearing everything down and redoing it again. It kind of just takes a lot of planning around certain necessities. Like, I know that I need all of my HDMI cables to split off at the same point so that I can bunch them all together and then put like little markers on them to know which is which, so that I can just plug them in at ease without needing to use like a big expensive switcher. And then like I also know that like my retro tank needs to go somewhere where like the remote is easily within range, and then like I gotta make sure that the switch is somewhere where removing it from its dock is easy, and you know, like there's certain necessities that almost kind of inherently build out the space that you're working with. I would genuinely recommend the metal thing that I use, the
metal shelves.
The shelving. Yeah, I had to get them from a kitchen surplus store because I needed the kind that you see in like prep kitchens and like restaurants and stuff.
Shit's heavy.
Yeah, it's really heavy duty, which is good for me because I have a fucking CRT on one of them, and those are so goddamn heavy. Yeah. I think if I had tried to put that on one of the like flimsier versions that you can get at like Target, it'd be kind of dangerous.
Yeah, having shelving that has how would you describe it, like slats rather than a totally flat surface is nice too, because it's less prone to collecting like dust and dead bugs.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know that we've had any issue with dead bugs.
Well,
but
you know, though, when you clean a shelf of video games and shit, and there's like a couple of like mystery, like tiny dead bugs in the back corner, like in a abandoned spider web, like that's always there. I hate that shit. Yeah, having to not deal with that.
Yeah.
Is nice. Let's see. Alshay says, "Hello, Hazel and Alyssa, new patron here. Welcome. I feel bad that this is my first question I ask you, but if anyone can answer my questions about PC98 games, it would definitely be you guys. Your videos where you mentioned the PC98 scene caused a fascination with the subject, but there's a certain problem. Good chunk, if not majority of them, are bishoujo games full of girls in many arousing situations. The problem being me, a homosexual man for whom those situations are hard to stomach, by which I mean even the standard stuff. I know they can get pretty hardcore. This made me wonder, were there even any bishonen games, maybe yaoi titles? If there was, maybe a small scene of housewives with their cult classics."
So to my understanding, Angelique is known as kind of like the first otome game, and that was 95, and I think that would have been past the PC98's prime. So to my knowledge, not really. I think that the unfortunate byproduct of that being a time, especially where computers were like seen as like a male hobby, meant that men were the only ones being catered to, just because there wasn't an audience big enough to justify the returns for developing an otome game.
I don't think Bishonen games started getting popular until like consoles.
And I think because they tend to lack a lot of like erotic content, they do tend to be
even
on consoles.
Even now, otome games are really lacking in erotic content.
They tend to be on consoles instead of on computers, like even like modern computers.
Yaoi games will be a lot more likely than Bishonen or otome games to have erotic content, but I'm not up on my yaoi game history like I should be. But I also think that probably entered the game too late for something like the PC 98 era. If you wanted to dig into old yaoi games, though, I know like Nitro Chiral has been in the game for quite a while.
Since like the 2000s,
Since the 2000s. That's probably about as old as you could accessibly get. That's the other thing, is there's up until recently, I feel like there was much less of an interest in translating Bishonen, otome, and yaoi games. It's definitely been a straight boys world in the visual novel world up until recently, which is why I'm so excited that the Switch is such an otome machine now, even to the point where they're like porting some older games to the Switch. Sorry, it's mostly Bishoujo games in the PC 98 era, which is a shame because that's a damn good aesthetic. So it's like, that would be a fun project to like make a Bishonen /
like
yaoi
almost like
game.
a Lost.
It's like a fake Lost Media.
Definitely.
I mean, not even like, gimmicky, but just like in that style as a homage. Like, what if women had computer in the 90s? No, I'm joking, but sorry about that. Your best bet's probably just going to be trying to find safe for work PC 98 games at that rate, or like more story oriented ones. Andy F says, do either of you have a piece of media that you're hesitant to revisit because the memory of it is so perfect in your head, so you don't even want to taint or spoil it? I was reminded of this when you showed clips of the Bakemonogatari series. In my head, it's so good, especially the avant-garde editing and framing. Some fear with FLCL. Tentatively watching FLCL progressive now. Anyway, bonus question. What breed is Wander? I almost imploded out of cuteness when you blew his nose on a Patreon questions video.
I'm really glad somebody thought that was cute.
This wouldn't be a situation where it would taint it, but I'm definitely like, it's gonna be a long time before I can rewatch Moral Oral. Just because it was so emotionally taxing, but I fucking love that series.
I feel like a similar emotion factors into my active decision not to make videos about certain things. Like, I really don't want to make videos about things where I know that I'm at a point where I don't want to fully wrap my head around my opinion on them.
You don't want to have to, like, articulate and analyze
like some of the magic gets lost somewhere along the way, but I feel like I've kind of explained that before. So on the part of the memories of it just being really perfect already, I think that I think I mentioned it somewhere probably, but when I watched Taibane Renmei earlier this year, I was unfortunately working and pulling an all-nighter. But that did have the byproduct of me literally finishing the series exactly as the sun was rising. Aww. And that was really magical. But yeah, I definitely have a lot of, like, there are a lot of shows where, like, I know they're not really amazing, but, like, something about the exact moment that I watched them in just, like, completely made it all click for me. And I'm definitely not as interested in rewatching those. I kind of almost have like an internal struggle sometimes, because I think I am somebody that doesn't really enjoy rewatching things or showing them to you, or especially with games, just like replaying them every now and again. But there's always that kind of internal struggle inside of me of like, I need to be experiencing more new media. Like, this is a part of my job. So I kind of don't let myself sort of stew in things that I really like. So
it's funny because I almost have the opposite feeling of like, oh, I don't want to taint my old memory of it, where it's like I like revisiting things I really liked, because I feel like the older I get, the more angles I can appreciate things from. Even things that aren't very good. Like, I had Hazel watch, it was her first time, it was like my millionth rewatch of Rose and Maiden. And that series is not good. I mean, it's just like,
I loved it.
It's really dumb, but it was like my fixation in my teens. Well, one of my fixations. And I really, really loved it. And obviously, rewatching it as a mean adult, I was like, this is really stupid. I can't believe I love this so much. But it's also like, oh, this is really stupid. I can't believe I loved this so much. Like I don't know. It only ever reaffirms my fondness for things, even things that I find aren't that good anymore, because like I have such a bigger pool of like influences and media that I understand now, and experiences that like kind of looking back on what it meant to me then and kind of how I see it now. I don't know. I only ever feel fondly about it. It's pretty rare that I like re-experience something and I'm like, oh God, I've ruined it for myself.
Yeah, that is true. I do feel like most of the time it doesn't really hurt things. Fully Cooley in particular is one of those things that I'm always simultaneously nervous about revisiting and also kind of excited to revisit, because like I find that I'm at a point with it where the last few times I've rewatched it, my angle hasn't really changed much, and that's almost been kind of comforting in itself. Like, the piece of media is something that is kind of crystalline to me, even as my tastes develop and my literacy develops.
Yeah, I did this with stuff I didn't like, too. Like, stuff that I experienced a long time ago that, like, I didn't like that much. I like to go back to it and be like, I feel like I can appreciate this now.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm like that with a lot of stuff. Especially anime. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I couldn't really stomach when I was younger that I can kind of chuckle about now. Yeah. Ranakel says, I got thinking with both the beginning and ending parts. The aspects of manga is at Target now, and there's a time capsule of how things were about second generation weebs. The sons and daughters of those that grew up with the Sailor Moons and the Dragon Ball Z and censored to the point of deliberate parody Hokuto no Kens of this world. These kids are getting to adulthood real fast. I don't have a focused question, I suppose, but how do you think this will reflect if there's going to be a phenomenon of that generation of young adults always having had it in the background? Like, what did the snapshot be like? And is it ethical to make a growing weeb watch a 40-year-old Japanese cartoon for its cultural impact?
Yeah, I think that is a really interesting question, and I really don't know. Like, I know that there are definitely people out there who are functionally second-generation weebs because their parents got into it, like, way early. In fact, I feel like we even kind of sort of see one of those in AGO with the anime family, the otaku family. Yeah. Goodness gracious.
I know when I was getting into anime, my dad tried to show me some of Robotech, which, as most of you already know, is Macross, as it was rebranded for America. And I think I was fascinated by it, but it's definitely not what, as a tiny kid, interested me about anime, so I never really went back to it. I think we watched some Speed Racer too, and obviously that was kind of hard for a young kid to palate. I'm curious if that experience will happen with young kids now. Will someone ever show a kid Sailor Moon or Pokemon or whatever, and the kid will be like, this is fucking lame.
Yeah, why are they calling that a jelly donut? What are you fucking talking about? Obviously that's onigiri.
My 5-year-old son can't even say my name, but he knows how to pronounce onigiri.
Yeah. It almost makes me wish I had any interest in having a kid.
Yeah, no. Hazel and I have had conversations all right, if if we had a hypothetical child, like, what would we show them?
Right,
like,
yeah.
What games would we want them to play? Hazel would be like, oh, you're gonna fucking love Butt Attack Punisher Girl.
I would not show that to my newborn baby infant.
I mean, they're newborn. They barely know what's going on. It's fine.
They might not know, but their brain will internalize it. Yeah. And that's scary.
Yeah, and who knows what kind of crazy things it'll turn into later in life.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, right. Like, I think that the phrase, is it ethical to make a growing weeb watch a 40-year-old cartoon, is, like, really funny on paper. But, like, I also feel like that's kind of real. Like, I don't really want to turn my theoretical child into like a walking hypothesis. Like, I'm not trying to turn my child into a science experiment.
Oh, I love the idea of it.
But I
think it'd be so
funny.
It
would break my heart if that kid got into Paw Patrol but couldn't appreciate like fucking the finer things in life.
Like Nichijou.
Like Elfenlied.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's also hard because then I'm like, well, it really depends on the kid and their maturity level and, like, what are they interested in? And, like,
right.
Oh, man, what am I going to do if, like, my kid that I'm never going to have hates the cartoons that I handpicked for them?
Where are we going to put, like, our entire library when they get old enough to want to start picking things off the shelf?
Yeah. Instead of a wine cabinet that we lock off, we have our, like, anime figure cabinet.
Yeah. And invariably they figure out where the key is and they start cracking into all the filth that we own.
All the filth. As if we... Like, what is the weirdest thing on our shelf right now?
Probably Mega Tokyo. No, that's not true.
Mega Tokyo. Liz Witt says, what modern anime would you like to see given the caramel dancing treatment, and why?
I'm going to assume that means taking something from the show and turning it into like a copy-pastable kind of meme.
See, I took that as what characters do you want to see that are like modern, but you want to see them animated to caramel dancing?
Those are two very different
like both
interpretations.
Though.
Yeah. I'm sure Breaking Bad has already been done a billion times.
I'm like certain I've seen it.
The kids are having fun. I'm gonna let them have their fun.
I mean, it's not funny. Your memes about anime Breaking Bad aren't that funny. You're cring. No, just kidding.
As far as a show kind of becoming that kind of very iconographic meme status, I don't really know. I've really been enjoying seeing all of the really cracked Bocchi the Rock fan art.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a lot of fertile ground there for how ridiculously Bocchi gets drawn. But I feel like that's not quite, like, you couldn't hot swap different characters in there quite the same.
This one's hard because the camera movements make it too hard to trace over, but I think that Lum's little dance in the new Urusei opening is really cute, and it would be cute to see people trace over that with other characters. Yeah. Kind of a la Hari Hari Yukai.
Yeah.
As far as...
God, do you think we'll ever have a truly iconic anime dance again?
I don't know. I've seen, like, new anime try to do that again, like, with, like, a beautiful, animated, detailed ending dance, but no one has ever done it quite like Haruhi. I still know most of the Hari Hari Yukai by muscle memory.
Yeah.
Gabo says, I remember when I was a wee lad, I was very much of the look at this cringe garbage, what were they thinking mindset. It wasn't until I got older that I began to enjoy the finer things in art and media, even if it wasn't technically good. Did you ever have a more reactionary phase when you were younger, or were you always this mellow? I was definitely an asshole when I was young.
Yeah, me as well.
Is there any media you initially didn't like or dismissed, only to revisit when you're older, and it turned out to be one of your favorite things? So we were just talking about that. For me personally, when I watched Lane, I did it after being bugged to, and I didn't give it a proper chance. I was short with it and didn't properly digest it. Then after a good bit of time passed, I watched it again, and it became one of my favorite things ever. This question's for both of you, by the way.
I would say that I had a reactionary, like, I almost had kind of like a bell curve.
It was like
where, like,
yeah.
I was really unabashed and like cringy or whatever about my likes. And I didn't really let that stop me. And then I think there hit a point where I was like, oh my God, I should be ashamed of myself for all this time. And then I got like way more like obnoxious about my opinions on these kinds of things. And then eventually it started to level out. And thankfully I was in the full swing of having a career on YouTube. Like that kind of came after I had sort of settled things and was just a lot more open-minded about
to love
media
again.
There's one in particular, but I want to save that anecdote for the video I want to make it for about.
I had mean girlfriends in high school, so they like irony poisoned me hardcore to the point where for like years after the fact I didn't know how to be genuine about liking my things that I liked without like making fun of myself. I still do it a little bit just because it's funny to be a little bit self-aware, but I definitely also had that kind of bell curve where it's like I really cringed at myself and other people and like made fun of them, and now I still make fun of people. I just don't post it online. Just kidding. No. Let's see. What's something I initially dismissed? Well,
I feel like there's just been so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like mostly just garbage that I probably shouldn't even give a second chance, but I like find a new way to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I definitely, okay, so when Keijo first came out, it was definitely a hate watch that me and my friends were doing. Like, oh, this is so fucking dumb and weird. But even like just a couple episodes into that, we realized we were enjoying it genuinely.
Yeah.
We're like, oh no, this is actually hilarious.
Yeah, you and I had that with Bayonetta.
Oh yeah, Bayonetta. I forgot that was initially a hate play.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh, this slaps actually.
Yeah.
Gino. Oh, it's our friend Gino. Gino7, our friend, says, thank you for including a clip from the scene in Ranma 1/2 where Ranma and Akane eat 9 entire hamburgers in one sitting. I really like the scene because it's an example of an early Ranma episode when the show is actually allowed to have moments that were really quiet and contemplative and human. But it's also unintentionally hilarious to me because it's just Ranma and Akane quietly sitting next to each other and devouring hamburger after hamburger. It's not even treated in a cartoony way. They just eat 9 entire hamburgers in one sitting. Wish I could do that. Anyway, sorry, I don't really have a question.
I love that scene so much.
I love that scene so much.
I love the really overacted sounds they make in the dub. The overacted eating noises. Yeah, I love that scene a lot.
Every time I want
a burger. I haven't eaten today.
Let's order burger.
Yeah, let's go and get a burger after this.
Burger.
Let's go get burger.
Every time I think about eating in anime dubs, I think about the outtakes for Oran, where Haruhi's voice actress, who's also the voice director, I think.
Yeah, she is.
It's a scene where Haruhi is eating like crab legs or something, and the actress, I guess, is eating like a Snickers bar and like giggling like, I've got this Snickers bar in my mouth. And thinking about eating a candy bar while your character is eating shellfish.
Yeah, literally opposite.
Always stuck in my head.
Yeah.
But it's like, I guess it makes sense why a Snickers bar would be particularly good for eating sounds.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta work through that bar.
Yeah, you gotta really slop it silly style.
Jesus Christ.
Fire Lizard says, how are you enjoying the current season of anime?
I love it.
I love it. This is the most fun I've had watching new anime in like
ever.
It seems really packed with quality, even when you exclude the big ones like Chainsaw Man and Spy Family. Do you anticipate making any videos involving anime from the current season? I know it's still early. There are only like 4 episodes out for each. Oops. We let this Q&A sit for a while. When I think of you, Hazel, I don't think of a current season I don't think of you as a current season watcher, so I was surprised to see on Twitter that you're watching 2 this time around.
We're watching like 7 shows in total.
Bonus question.
We'll get to that in just a sec.
Okay.
I don't really see myself making a video on any of them specifically or about the season as a whole. But I can tell you right now, I'm working on a video where Bocchi is going to feature very prominently, and I'm so glad that I didn't make it before Bocchi because it would have been so much worse for not including Bocchi.
Yeah.
I don't know when that video will happen, but it's one I'm really excited about. I might kind of shift focus on it after the holidays are done because I don't think it doesn't need to do well. I don't need it to do well.
Yeah.
So I'll probably put that out when it's not too important either way.
Yeah. Yeah, right now we're watching Chainsaw Man, Pop Team Epic, Digicarrot.
When there are subs available.
Yeah, Bocchi the Rock, Akiba Made War.
Urusei
Yatsura.
And then I think there's one more.
Well, we were watching Mob, and then we
Right.
stopped.
Did you say DIY already?
Oh, yeah.
DIY.
Do it yourself, yeah.
We were watching Mob, yeah.
We dropped it. We might come back to it.
Yeah.
I think we just had too much anime, and for some reason we weren't really feeling it.
Yeah, I just couldn't get invested.
We're not haters. I love Mob, but I almost feel like I got everything I wanted out of Mob with the first 2 seasons. So, eating... watching the 3rd season felt like eating when you're not hungry anymore.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
I liked eating this, but I don't want to chew on it anymore.
I also just don't need Reagan because Tencho and Akiba Made War is everything I could ever want and
she's
more.
Reagan for women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonus question, wait, do you dislike Madoka, or was that a joke about that weird frame of the opening?
I've never seen Madoka.
I have. I am neutral about Madoka, shall we say. You can direct all your hate mail to our brand new P.O. box. Nolan Gang says, hi, Hazel and Alyssa. 2 questions. 1, you can skip this if it's too personal. How Hazel/Alyssa Core was y'all's wedding? 2, what are your thoughts or first impressions on Bayonetta 3?
Let's answer these in reverse order. My thoughts and first impressions on Bayonetta 3 is that it's going to be a really long time before I'm going to want to actually touch it, because everything surrounding it leading up to its release, from all angles, it's just really put a really bad taste in my mouth. And then I heard some stuff about how the game pans out, and it was one of those difficult instances where, and this doesn't really usually happen to me, where I just kind of had to confront that, like, what I wanted out of those games that may have been there originally just fundamentally was never at the forefront enough to be a guaranteed factor going forward.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of, in one fell swoop, kind of killed my interest.
I feel like I'm just gonna wait for however long it takes until any hopes I had about that game fade away. You know what I mean? Like, when I'm like, all right, I have no expectations anymore. Let's just play it.
I went into the release for Bayonetta 3 rewatching playthroughs, or watching. I played both the games. I watched playthroughs of the first 2 games to refresh myself. Mm-hmm. And I really loved the first one, maybe even more than I ever did. And I felt more and more vindicated on not really liking 2. Mm. So I have a hunch that 3 is probably going to continue on that unfortunate downward trajectory for me.
Bummer.
I don't think that these are objective parts of these games.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not really interested in their objective quality. I go to them for very particular things, and if they're not there, I'm not interested.
Yeah, and I'm already getting like 50% of that from people who still draw fan art of Bayonetta and Jeanette, so... Or Jean, yeah. The first question... How do we answer this? So... lore bomb, I guess, for Hazel and Alyssa is that we're not technically married.
Yeah.
There are a lot of complicating factors, shall we say, surrounding it.
It's basically all a matter of money.
Well, money is like 90% of it, but there's just a lot of complicating factors, so we haven't bothered with the paperwork or the actual ceremony yet. We both have engagement rings that we like formally gave to each other over a very romantic sushi dinner. But yeah,
even the rings themselves are like,
they're cheap.
They're really cheap,
but they're a material that doesn't what's the word?
Yeah, I've worn this every day for months and months now, and it is still trucking, looking exactly the same as it did when I first got it, so.
Hazel and I are both very utilitarian, so neither of us wanted expensive diamond rings to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I want something that will last, and that won't break, and that won't leave a little ring around my finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not technically married. We call each other wives just because I don't know. We live together and we do everything together, and
we've been together for so long that it doesn't really make sense not to.
Yeah. The complications surrounding the formalities and the legalities of actually getting married are just like, we'll deal with it when we can.
Yeah, it's not too much of a rush.
Sorry if that's like a sad lore bomb for everyone.
It makes no difference to us fundamentally.
Yeah. In our hearts, we are married.
Yeah. I mean, what is it if not a matter of ceremony anyway, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we do a wedding, it'll probably be pretty small.
Yeah.
Very small. And it will be catered by Taco Bell.
And I'll do a video called Reviewing My Wedding. 7.5 out of 10.
That's probably going to be true. No, the 7.5 out of 10 score. Not the actual review.
Yeah.
All in all, I would marry my wife again. But the wedding?
Could have used an update patch.
Okay, TK says, any thoughts on if the Rising Stars series is good fodder for a video?
It's already been done.
Yeah.
I'm generally not very, I don't worry too much about whether or not videos have been done, quote unquote, but such a thorough job has already been done of that topic that I don't think there's any reason for me to say the same stuff again.
You took a strong-handed and overall kind focus on AGO's celebration of the pirate community. And I was wondering if both of you would be willing to take a moment to talk about a positive moment you've had in the community, and maybe what you think makes a fun and welcoming space/event for the anime community. Also, fun notes. There was this incident in 2021 in France where the government gave teenagers a stipend of about $350 for artistic enrichment, and a sizable portion, around 50%, was just spent on manga. I think that's valid. They need inspiration.
God bless.
They need inspiration.
The kids are all right.
The kids are all right. Damn, I want a $350 stipend for buying manga. And
absolutely, yeah.
And that on
I can tell you right now that I think doing this channel has been one big positive moment with the community, so to speak. Pretty much any time I've ever sort of needed or wanted anything when it comes to either just like research or support or understanding about this subculture, about this hobby, I've been met with pretty like overwhelming warmth. I think I'm really lucky that I've kind of found a pocket of the kind of overall anime sphere that skews pretty positive to the kinds of things that I'm about. So, yeah. As far as a positive experience within the event space itself, I can't really think of much. Not to say that like my anime experience, my anime convention experience is skewed pretty insular, so to speak. Most of the time that I've been at them, it's just been to, I don't know, hang out with people I already know. So I can't think of too many instances where like strangers have like really come through for me or anything like that. I don't really feel like I need that. So
yeah, I'm trying to think about it, and you know, for clarification, I've had only good times at anime conventions, minus the fact that Anime Expo is way too fucking packed. They need to limit their participation to a certain number of people. I feel like a goddamn sardine at that convention.
And that was years and years ago.
Oh yeah, it's even worse now. I've seen photos. But yeah, my mind just played like a reel of every weird thing that's happened to me at a convention or a community.
Yeah, I unfortunately the weird funny things are the things that come to my mind first.
Yeah, I mean the positive has kind of just been like a more general, like broad experience for me, I think. I certainly am glad that I got into anime and manga as a young kid, and I think it has enriched my life.
Absolutely, likewise. We forgot to say what breed Wander is.
Oh, fuck, I forgot. Who even asked that?
You don't need to scroll up for it. That's just the whole of the question. Right. They know who they are.
Wander is a Himalayan Persian. I would normally be against, buying a purebred cat, but I didn't buy him. He was gifted to me, so...
Yeah, Wander is kind of a difficult philosophical existence for us because, like, generally that kind of breeding, I think, is fundamentally immoral. Like, when you look at the poor guy and the breathing problems he has...
I wouldn't wish that on any animal.
Yeah. But he already exists. He was going to exist whether or not we had any intervention. I'm not going to say that he shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, he is... The thing is... I don't necessarily support buying purebred animals, but as someone who grew up around Himalayan Persians, they do have an incredibly specific demeanor, and I totally see why people pay a ton of money for it, because Wander is a human Muppet, or a living Muppet. He's just like the sweetest little... So some people in a doll server I'm in were talking about their cats attacking their dolls.
Oh.
One person had a doll just get a really expensive commissioned manicure that the cat ripped off the doll's hands and, like, broke. And I felt really bad for them, and I was thinking about it. I was like, I literally had my doll sitting on the ground the other day, and Wander didn't even, like, look her way.
Yeah.
Wander is such
Although I am looking at a figure I had on the floor while I was building a computer.
Did he sneeze on it?
What do you see right here?
Yeah, he sneezed on it.
Yeah, he sneezed on it.
That is the one thing. But, yeah, Wander, like, doesn't attack things. He doesn't, like, bat stuff around, really.
He's not curious about food.
He's not... Dude, we hold food up to his face like, Wander, try this.
And he
Wander,
just
try
recoils.
this. And he looks disgusted by it. Wander only eats his food, he only eats his kibble, he only plays with his toys and sometimes trash on the floor. And he's, like, otherwise just, like, the most docile living creature on planet Earth. So it's like, yeah, Persians are built different.
Yeah.
But yeah. He's a good little guy. We give him the best life we possibly can, despite his constantly leaking face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blog board.
It is kind of funny to think that we probably, at least once upon a time in our lives, were the poorest people to own a Himalayan Persian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, you know, unfortunately, like, obviously, I don't think that buying an outrageous sum of money for a cat that was specifically bred in like, a for-profit way is especially ethical. But also, like, the kinds of specific needs that Wander has as a Persian are, like... kind of crazy sometimes. Like the amount of like routine groomings that he needs and
yeah, it's definitely a luxury animal.
yeah like I think in order to give him the best life you kind of need to be someone who's researched on how to kind of like ethically handle a creature like him.
I mean, the same is true of like a lot of like quote unquote exotic pets.
Right,
like, even just birds.
A
run-of-the-mill bird requires like just as much, if not more, accommodating for
definitely
as Wander. So, you know, if you end up with an animal, whether it be purebred or mutt, wild or Muppet, you just give it the best life you possibly can within your means.
Yeah, definitely.
Blog Bori says, love the video. Big cheers for how you frame the whole thing. Not totally sure how to word this question so it makes sense, but I've noticed you reference where you are, whether Seattle, Orange County, or placing a lot of your reminiscences in geographical contexts around Northern California, or the Twinkle Park song on Goat Rock, and so on. And I'm curious what the significance of where you are is to your creative output, video essays, music, etc.
It's funny because I don't think I ever really thought about it that hard. I think it's kind of instinctual for me. I always really enjoy hearing about it when other people talk about it, just like wherever they're from. In high school, I listened to the Giant Bomb podcast a lot, and a lot of the people who were on staff at Giant Bomb at the time were from Petaluma, and that was like fucking mind-blowing to me. Like, the idea that there were people who like had skin in the game who were from the same place as me, really fascinating. And I feel like that kind of instilled a sense of like, well, I want to be able to rep the places that I've been. But I also just feel like in general, I'm somebody whose lifestyle is kind of invariably informed by where I live because I don't drive. And because at so many of the places I've lived, I've worked just like menial jobs. Obviously, with here being the exception. Thank you all so much. But I think that, like, you know, I spend a lot of time in the places that I live, and I think that winds up informing a lot of where my head is at.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say, hashtag not all car people, but I feel like when you have a car, at least this was the case for me, you think a lot less about where you live because it kind of doesn't matter because you can just drive to where you need to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, hashtag SoCal privilege, because I could just, like, you know, drive an hour or a couple hours or a few hours to get to whatever I wanted to be at. But, you know, living here without a car has certainly made me much more aware of my surroundings than I've ever been before, living all over SoCal with a car. I feel like I never really made any kind of distinction about the different, like, cultures or vibes or population of the cities I've been in up until being here. And, you know, when you're on foot, you just really have to take in your surroundings more, both from a safety perspective, a navigation perspective, just like a time perspective. You spend more time going from place to place, and you kind of learn to find more of an appreciation for it. A lot of beautiful streets and trees and nature that I never would have given a second thought to while driving. I now walk by every day, and it's kind of like as much a part of my life as the food that I eat or the hobbies I engage in.
Absolutely.
And I've really appreciated that about being in a city that's more walkable.
Yeah. I also think that I'm like, it's funny because I don't think I'm too nostalgic for childhood, like how nostalgia is usually talked about. But I think I am kind of a nostalgic person when it comes to, like, moments in time that I have experienced as an adult. I think invariably those are very much so attuned to the places I was in. You know, even just as far as, like, I used to live with smokers, but they would exclusively smoke in the garage. But, you know, the garage was also just a good place to hang out. So, like, there are definitely, like, certain brands of cigarettes. I'll smell them when I'm out, and I'll think about just, like, being in that garage late at night with, like, an acoustic guitar and some friends or whatever. And that is very, like, vividly, like, that memory is embedded in that place.
Well, so. I think artistically, you as a creator, you also just really like to paint a picture for your viewer.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, you know, giving an idea of the time and the place helps with that a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Jets says, have you mentioned / made any content about Azumanga Daioh before? I always thought you had a video about Azumanga Daioh, but I can't find it on your channel, so please tell me, have I lost my marbles?
Yeah, so I think it is technically unlisted and in the playlist of all of my videos. I may have removed it, I'm not really sure. I made that video when I was doing a video every 2 weeks, and every now and again I would essentially sacrifice a video that I would make in like 2-3 days so that I could jump to the next one and have a head start on it. That was like a really reckless, creatively and job-wise, a very reckless time. Every video I made was basically a gamble with whether or not it was going to come together in time, and I wound up making a lot of concessions that I would be totally unwilling to now with the format that I work in. And I think that video is kind of the prime example of me doing literally the bare minimum to get a video out. Yeah.
So it's lost media now.
No, it's not lost.
The lost media of Hazel Channel.
I just don't like. I don't like having videos that I feel like don't really represent where my head is at.
Yeah. Well, I know you've expressed in the past
standards.
It sucks to cover something you really like and not be able to cover it in full.
Right. Exactly.
Like you want to give it the full treatment if you're going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chizu Chishu, maybe, says, hi, this video is one of my new favorites of yours, and I'm bummed there are no longer any more tapes available for Touched or Been Touched By.
There's
worry. More coming.
Yeah, I'll be doing another run.
As I love that album a lot, and I have all of it on my Giga playlist I listen to while doing game dev work. Oh, that's so cute. Seeing something like GameWorks is such a big time capsule. There actually is only one GameWorks left open, and it's in Seattle, so maybe that'd be something worth visiting. Oh,
I had no idea.
Where is that?
I had no idea.
Looks like they've kept a lot of their older games, including old versions of Drum Mania, DDR, Mr. Driller, and several fighting game cabs. Hang on, I'm gonna look that up real fast.
Yeah. Is it in that mall? The one that Brutal Moose went to that one time? Or is that just around one?
I think that's just around one. GameWorks. Wait, I feel like... Is it... Yeah, we've walked past it before, right? Remember, it had the signs about washing your hands outside of it?
Oh, you know what? Yeah. It's right by the theater.
And it's like, villains don't wash their hands, and it had a picture of Team Rocket.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is bullshit. Jesse and James totally washed their hands.
Yeah, that is literally right next to the theater where we saw Sonic 2, and also where I saw Nope, and where we saw Only Yesterday.
Okay, I didn't know that was the last GameWorks.
Yeah, how about that?
We should go sometime.
We should.
Oh man, that's fun. Thanks for telling us that. Ryland Austin says, hi Hazel, been a big fan since your break with the incest video. You can't call it that! Jumping back...
Nikki and I have been laughing about that comment for like 3 weeks now. I think calling it that is so fucked up and so funny. You can't call it that. It's horrible. It's not wrong, but...
Jumping back in time more than a decade with this show makes today's mainstream appeal of these formerly niche mediums all the more incredible. While I'm obviously happy that more people like the things that I do, it does feel like the magical nicheness has been sapped away, and I see so many t-shirts and manga of all things at Target. Do either you or Alyssa, I'm assuming this is how your name is spelled, sorry if it's wrong, you got it right, good job.
Congrats.
Have any thoughts on that matter? Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely like the monkey paw, where it's like, I love the accessibility,
yeah,
but the old-fashioned passion is definitely something I miss.
I think, it still exists
just
in different
forms.
Ways. And I think that I take solace in that. Mm-hmm. I think definitely it being accessible is more important than it being like this like revered thing that is only engaged with in like a particular set of ways.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Flan says, thanks for the video. It was a total time warp, and I'm glad I'm not the only adult weeb who gets confusing anime shit out in the quote-unquote real world. My question for you is, have either you or your partner entered one of the many Tokyopop contests over the years?
Definitely not.
Not, but I really wanted to. Way back when they did their very brief publication of the Gothic Lolita Bible in 2008-ish, I entered to be in the magazine itself, as they had a reader fashion coordinate spotlight sort of thing. That's so cute! I actually won getting an Atelier Piero headpiece in the mail, and I was supposed to maybe be in the magazine itself. To this day, I think whatever divine force had its publication canceled before I made it into the magazine, because dear God, the cringe weebiness was off the charts, as you also had to write your own little blurb next to your image. Oh, I want to see it! I used one of the patterns that came with each copy to make myself a dress, and, well, let's just say it was all crushed velvet. Yes! Also, being pet like a cat backwards is exactly how I felt seeing Mass Hetalia cosplay again. That needs to be a content warning on videos, LOL.
True. I definitely got a lot of comments on that video from what you read to me that were like, that was seriously like activating a sleeper cell for me.
I know so many weebs in the early aughts that wanted to dress in Lolita so badly, but not only was it inaccessible and expensive, but often didn't accommodate at all for American sizing.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, unless you're like a size 0, importing it was really hard.
Yeah.
That's just my vision of it as an outsider anyway. I don't know if that's actually factually true, but so as a result, I knew a lot of people who tried really hard to kind of sew like their approximations of Lolita fashion. So that's really cute. I love that so much. The fact that you even tried to sew your own dress, I think is worth praising. I still haven't sewn human clothes. I'm intimidated by it. It's a lot of fabric to waste if you fuck up.
Yeah.
Doki Bunny says, thank you for the new video. Do you think you'll be at SoccerCon 2023 this coming spring? What do you think, Hazel?
Probably not.
I think I'm still a little bit itchy about pandemic, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think by that time it probably won't be too dangerous, but I also just, like, I don't really know what I would go for, you know?
I just go for the vibes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say maybe I'll think about it in 2024.
We'll see.
I kind of want to give time for, like... I'm sorry, this is not the question you were asking, Doki Bunny, but... I'm nervous that people aren't going to keep up on their booster shots. Like, that the initial, like, quote-unquote return to normal is going to make people complacent, and then they're going to stop vaccinating, and then I'm worried that there's going to be another second wave.
Yeah, I mean, we also need to remember that, like, cons were flu outbreak. Ground zeros. Long before COVID was the thing.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm being paranoid. I don't know if there's actually any basis for this paranoia. But I kind of like want to give time to like let the normalcy of getting COVID vaccinated settle in first before I think about going to huge conventions again. Yeah. That's just me though. And also like when I get sick, I get really sick. Yeah, so I'm kind of scared. I'm trying to apply for Artist Alley there, and if I get in, I'd love to give you some art freebies. Oh, that's so nice.
It's very sweet.
Oh, if I was going, I would love to go and buy your art. You don't have to give us any freebies. I know I'd like to give you a Terriermon sticker once I have a design, but is there any other character / series you'd love to have a print or sticker of? If you're unsure or won't be able to make it to SoccerCon, or if I don't get into Artist Alley, would you consider opening a P.O. box at some point?
So we actually did really recently, because I didn't want to use our actual address as a return address for the tapes. Yeah. And I'm kind of in the process of figuring out how to put that out there, because I don't really feel super comfortable just saying, hey, give me a bunch of free shit, you know? Like, the existence of the Patreon already kind of like solves the issue of me needing access to research materials outside of things that are just really specific or hard to find but aren't necessarily really valuable. Yeah. Which is where something like a P.O. box would come into play. Like, it would be really nice if I could use that as a means to borrow certain things for certain videos. But on the whole, I think just given like where I'm at, like I think I would feel pretty uncomfortable just kind of making it like an open and shut send me free shit case. Yeah. So I'd probably much rather just kind of set it up like, hey, here's a contact form. Like, let's figure something out, and then I'll give you the address if we've like agreed on something, and if I can make shipping happen, you know. Like I'd kind of like to set it up in a way that is less kind of oriented around just receiving stuff. Yeah.
Doki Bunny, when you have your Terriermon stickers out, message Hazel on Patreon so I can go buy it. Yeah. I'm always looking for more Terriermon merch.
Yeah, I don't have nearly enough.
I love him. Thank you for your message. You're super duper sweet. Yeah. And I hope you get into the Artist Alley. And if you don't, I will be very sad for you. I was like, what's a funny thread I can jokingly make that doesn't make me sound like I'm going to do something unforgivable? Anyway, Yoshi Cooper 2 says, hello, first time question asker. I've been enjoying the current reboot of Rusayatsu despite having no attachment to the original run. Have you been watching / any opinions on the new run?
I love how when things are blurred, they have a slight chromatic aberration to them. I think that's a really cute effect.
I think all the little playing with the style is really fun.
Yeah, it's really crazy how dead on that art is to Rumiko's like in my third eye, like the platonic ideal of Rumiko's art, like that is what that new show looks like.
Yeah, it's really cute. You know, it's funny, I'm really, really enjoying the reboot. I'm not being too picky about it because I'm just happy to see Lum again. And obviously anything I like quote unquote miss about the old series, I can just go watch the old series again. The one complaint I have is that I'm not feeling Lum's new voice. I feel like And it, like, varies so much from
it feels
episode
very
to episode.
inconsistent.
Like, the first episode, I feel like she was kind of doing an okay, like, impression of the original voice. And then, like, from episode to episode, like, I feel like you hear her struggling to maintain that voice. Because I think I mentioned this before, but I went and watched, like, a reel of past characters she's voiced, and none of them sound like Lum. And that made me kind of nervous, because I was like, this is not an archetype she plays. How is she going to play it? And the answer is not super well. I feel like she's really struggling to maintain that character.
Again, like, especially compared to Ataru.
Who's pitch perfect. Mendo, too.
Mendo as well, yeah.
Shinobu, we haven't really gotten to see or hear quite as much of. I'm a little bit disappointed by Shinobu, but she's not the main character.
Yeah.
She's okay. I just think that, like, really overwrought, like, I can't even imitate it, like, old anime girl voice is something really funny about Shinobu. Like, it's something I kind of associate with, like, Creamy Mommy's voice actress.
Yeah,
or, like,
yeah.
that era of, like, overwrought is just the best way I can describe that style of acting. That being paired with Shinobu, and then Shinobu also being, like, really aggressive, like, is really funny.
Yeah.
The same way once Ron gets introduced, like, Ron does, like, a really, like, cutesy, girly voice contrasted with her, like, kind of Yankee way of speaking.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm not feeling Lum, most of all. She's okay. She's serviceable.
Yeah, I think that's the difficulty in getting, like, literally one of the most iconic anime voices ever recast.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I just feel like they should have found someone who sounds more like her. I don't know. That's just me, though. But it's great otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Now for something literally polar opposite.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Why have you done this to me? The wickedly talented Adele Dazeem says.
I'm going to let you handle this one. I gotta pee.
Oh, man. I gotta pee, too. Hi. I'm not sure if you've been asked in another video, but what are your thoughts on the new Made in Abyss? Oh, man. So I watched the first season of Made in Abyss, and I was really impressed by it, just in terms of, like, the production. Like, it's a visually beautiful anime. Like, the sense of world is so massive. The soundtrack and the even, like, the sound effects, the foley feels, like, so, like, cinematic. Like, something about season 1 of Made in Abyss felt like it felt like just a whole season of an anime movie with a high budget. It was really enjoyable. I know that there were already elements present in season 1 of, shall we say, the manga author's inclinations, but I think I was willing to hand wave it because it was so, like, well made that I was like, well, you know, there's some, like, weird little moments, but it's just kids being kids, right? Like, kids are a little weird sometimes. I don't know. Like, I looked at it with weirdly pure eyes, and then season 2 comes around, and obviously I know that, like, the manga's like this too, but I don't know. I feel like Tsukushi stops caring about plot and just starts, like, writing whatever jacks him off. I don't know, man. I hate Tsukushi so much. I want to beat him with a hammer. Season 2... Oh, and I watched the movie, too, and the movie was really bad. The movie adapts, like, the worst plot in the manga, and it didn't really make it any better being animated. Yeah, I don't know. Season 2 has just kind of made me mad and sad because when I watch Made in Abyss, I see everything about it that I really, really love. And then I see it, like, slowly as the series goes on, getting more and more buried by Tsukushi being a weird pervert. And it makes me wish that those elements that are really incredible were just, like, in literally any other series the same way. Like, at its best, Made in Abyss kind of scratches the itch in my brain that loved Pikmin as a kid.
I'm gonna check the mail.
Okay, have fun checking the mail. Like, sort of like the horrific elements of, like, nature and biology, but also kind of like the comfort of the fact that, like, nature is what it is and that, like, it's designed
Never mind, it was on our doorstep.
Oh, nice.
My bye package is here.
Oh, nice. You want to do a live opening?
It's gonna sound horrible.
Yeah, you're right. That would be terrible. Anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, like, what I loved about Made in Abyss was the mystery of the abyss. And, like, the characters discovering the nature and the animals and even the dangers of delving deeper. I do agree, though, with the notion that even in season 1, the, like, weird, like, torture porn aspects of it were kind of over the top and silly.
Yeah, it's difficult because I feel like there's this argument about it that I think is a worthwhile argument in some pieces of media, which is like all of that stuff showing how children are thrust into this really horrible, brutal system without regard for their well-being is really gross and wrong. But then you also have to ask, but what is it trying to say with that?
Yeah, see...
Is it like...
I definitely think I went into it with that mindset for season 1, and then once I read the manga, I was like, oh, no, okay, this author is just actually a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. I think it jumps from, like, okay, this is saying something to, no, this is a means to an end. Yeah. And I don't like the end.
And I don't like the means either.
And I also don't like the means.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because I think, like, the characters are... very cute, which makes me more mad when, like, they get put through, like, weird fucking shit, like a...
How many piss extractions were there this season?
No, like, in the movie alone, I feel like there's, like, 4 different scenes of children pissing themselves. And I
hate that fucking guy so much. I don't understand how that studio has the fucking stomach to animate that for years and years.
It's such a waste because it's such an incredible production. Although that's the other thing is season 2 I feel like is animated worse. Like it doesn't look as like cinematic as the first season.
Good for them.
It's like, they realized that this is good for them. Yeah, yeah. But I'm also like, damn, like. I was really hoping... It's
very self-negating.
Yeah, I was hoping that the anime could, like, salvage and maybe, like, remove some things. Yeah. But they didn't. No. So I'm just like, oh, man. But, like, I keep going because I love Nanachi and I can't help it. But if I ever...
You got all the Nanachi you needed from Pop Team Epic.
I did. I literally actually did. Nanachi making a cameo in Pop Team Epic right after I had watched the first half of season 2 of Made in Abyss really slapped the wind out of me.
Oh God, have you still not even seen the second half yet?
I haven't finished it. I know where it's going because I read the manga because I like to torture myself. But it's just going to be more misery porn. Yeah. Plot twist. Okay, So I know I'm just talking about Tsukushi being a pervert, but even if I completely remove that, even if all of that was gone from the anime, the second season pisses me off because it's so, like... I don't even know how to say it succinctly. Like, they spend all their time in this, like, weird city of weird creatures that has, like, its own really deep backstory, which is theoretically kind of interesting. Like, the idea of a culture getting carved out in this otherwise really desolate place. But they do it in, like, the least interesting way possible. I feel like the residents are all really off-putting, probably because 99% of them look like penises, which is, like... I get it, Tsukushi. I get it. And then my favorite character, Nanachi, gets put through the exact same storyline that they got put through in the first season because, surprise, Mitty is alive again, sort of, somehow. Let's torture poor Nanachi some more over watching their beloved childhood friend get...
put through the meat grinder
brutalized
for a fucking
and put
second
through the
time.
Meat grinder. Yeah, like, and then Nanachi has to do this whole thing again of coming to terms with putting Mitty down, and it has no different, like, nothing is different. Nothing is changes about it.
He's literally jacking off so hard while he's drawing that he forgot to write a story. So he was like, oh, what do I have here? I'll just do this shit again. It's fine.
If anyone knows any other good stories about something that has a setting like Made in Abyss but isn't Made in Abyss, please message me. I need my Pikmin fix. I love the nature. I love when they cook.
That's such a great part.
I love when they kill them. And I know everyone says watch Dungeon Meshi, which read Dungeon Meshi. I think it's getting an anime too, right?
By Trigger. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna watch it. Don't worry, I promise you. But I love when they cook. I love, like, the scenes about food. food. I love, like, Nanachi's emotional connection to food, how they finally get to, like, enjoy something in life. I love the conversation about, like, life begetting life. Like, these monsters die so that we can take their strength and keep going and live another day. And I think there's a lot of, like, brushes up against, like, the beauty and the horrors of nature and biology, and packaged with just, like, the worst.
Packaged with the horrors of being an author whose penis won't get soft, no matter how hard he tries. Fuck that guy. God damn it. I hate that motherfucker.
Also, I hope you know, question asker, I'm not mad at you for asking me this question. Thank you for giving me a chance to rant, and I'm sorry for ranting. I have obviously incredibly complicated feelings about it because there are so many things about it I love packaged in things that I, like, actually can't stomach.
Yeah.
And that's, like, really frustrating. Yeah. I cannot fucking stand seeing Masan animated either. Like, I know...
Masan?
I know that
I just pictured the...
Not the Jammerland Masan. I'm talking about the fucking Maiden Abyss Season 2 penis creature who gets, like... I'm not joking. He gets, like, circumcised as punishment for stealing something from Rico. And, like, I kind of understood that he was supposed to look like a penis in the manga, but seeing it animated with, like, little drawings of, like, veins on his body, and then seeing him get, like, brutally circumcised, I was like, bro!
I hate that motherfucker so much. Somebody needs to take his fucking pen away.
Someone needs to put him in prison.
Honestly, at this point, just get him out of here.
Anyway, thank you for your question. I'm sorry for venting. I hope that vent was funny and not just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Bean says, do you have a favorite Vocaloid producer / one that inspired your music?
A lot of them, honestly. I've talked before about both Meek Gazer compilations, Meek Gazer and Post Gazer. All of the artists on those are really amazing. Obviously, I really love Shinamoda, Poa Poa P. But I mean, it honestly, like, you could name, like, a guitar-centric Vocaloid producer, and there's a good chance I'm a big fan and I'm influenced. Like Hachi for sure. It's so weird that he's the Chainsaw Man guy now.
I know, it's crazy.
Mikito, obviously.
Mikito's music lately has been fucking baller.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many others that I always blank on. A lot of producers who wrote, like, individual songs that have had a really big impact on me, but that I haven't really, like, dug into the rest of their catalog as much. But yeah, so many. Kikuo is amazing. That dude's sense for production, kind of incorporating production into composition, is next level. Really amazing stuff.
I love his ethos about, like, synthetic instruments.
Right.
I think he really goes the extra mile to kind of make his stuff feel fully realized.
Yeah.
Connor M says, if you could re-experience any show from that era of niche anime, like rewatch the show for the first time or sit younger you down and have them watch a show they skipped over, what would it be? Have you ever heard of the Tenchi... let's answer this first part. Because this is a totally different second question. I don't know. I kind of feel like as a kid I watched everything I wanted to be watching for the most part.
Yeah.
But if I could rewatch something for the first time...
I feel like younger me probably would have appreciated Aria more than current me. I feel like I kind of spoiled myself by watching the Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko OVAs before I watched Aria, because Aria is so clearly inspired.
Same composer.
Yeah, same composer. Yeah. So clearly inspired that in some ways it unfortunately winds up feeling like a slightly lesser version of that, even though there's more of it. And I think I probably would have appreciated that more if I'd gotten to it first. No shade, obviously, but yeah.
I want to watch... What would be crazy to watch for the first time now? I mean, I'm still doing that. I'm still going back to a lot of popular anime from that time and watching it for the first time now just because I skipped over it. Watching Black Butler as an adult was pretty insane.
Oh, man.
I don't know if I would have appreciated it at all as a kid.
No.
When I was young, I was not into Fujoshi bait, but...
As an adult, that stuff is just like so fucking funny.
It's really funny.
Yeah. Every time I see Black Butler, I feel fondness swell in my heart, despite the fact that so much of it is so bad.
Every time I see fan art of Twisted Wonderland, I feel like Black Butler's legacy is truly living on because all those characters were designed by the Black Butler artist.
Without a doubt.
So that's pretty funny. Okay, Connor M. also asked, have you ever heard of the Tenchi Muyo tabletop game? I found it in an old game store. It's real and officially licensed, apparently. I bought it for my stepdad, who played a lot of D&D and loved Tenchi when I aired on Toonami. That's so cute.
That's so cute. I did not.
Fuck, I want to play the Tenchi Muyo tabletop game.
Okay. I need to look into how accessible that is because I would love to do that for a video.
Yeah.
There's another video I'm working on that I'm considering saying I won't do this unless I can play the board game of it. And I won't say what it is, but that's where that P.O. box might come in handy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Don't die. Do you need some water?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I want to play it. We should look that up. Miranda G says, did you guys go through a phase of being too cool for anime? And if you did, what got you out of it? Yes.
Yeah, so I think for me it was, I was in a lot of bands and I was focusing pretty exclusively on music at pretty much all times. And whatever I was watching in my, like, solo time or whatever was just not really anime. I think I was around like 19, 21. It was around that time period where I just wasn't really thinking that much about anime. I kind of like, I was like the one into anime in my friend group and bandmates. They were kind of one and the same. But I wasn't really watching a lot of it at the time. And I don't really know what got me back into it. I think it was honestly just like reading manga at a time when I was already reading a lot. Kind of helps me to reconnect. And there was a long time where I was definitely more of a manga reader than an anime watcher.
Right. I'm trying to think of... So it's funny because I had a long phase like right at the end of high school and then during my community college years where, I definitely fell out of like anime itself. Like I wasn't watching any new anime, but I was still into like anime adjacent things like Vocaloid or like anime style video games. I read all of Danganronpa 1 on the Something Awful forums, but I was not really watching anime at that time, and I actually kind of had like an inverted America-boo phase in the interim where like I was really into TF2 and Teen Titans that extended back far enough that I actually started reading like the original Teen Titans comics that the cartoon was roughly based on. And I was trying to like delve into like American comics in general. I didn't get very far because they've still just like never managed to appeal to me the same way manga has. But yeah, I was reading like even just a little bit of X-Men. I was watching the X-Men cartoon. I think I watched some of like the 90s Batman cartoon.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like when Marvel movies were coming out, but not such a monolith that they like dominated the conversation about American comics. So like the interest was there, but not the oversaturation.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like dipping my toes in that. And then, like TF2 got me big into like more Western styled things again. I was really into Portal and Portal 2. And I've always been into video games, and like most video games come from Japan. Well, not most, but a lot of video games come from Japan that I play. So I wasn't watching anime or reading manga for like years, but it's weird to say I wasn't into it because it was still like kind of there at the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And then I got big into fucking EDM, and I was like in the quote unquote EDM fandom for a long time. And then I was into Star Trek. So that was weird. That was a weird, like, progression of
that is funny to think
extremely
about.
not anime things.
Yeah, and then you still had, like, cultural touchstones at the back of your brain, like fucking Taruto. Like, who out here is talking about Taruto?
Oh, Magical Meow Meow Taruto? Yeah. And then after Star Trek, what was it that got me back into anime? Because I had a hard shift back. I mean, it might have just been like Danganronpa 2 and V3. And
no, it would have been before that, though. Because I feel like it happened at a few points while we were dating.
I feel like anime just started getting good again. I don't know. Like, that sounds boomery to sound, but like I do feel like there was kind of a lull where anime wasn't that interesting looking anyway. And then something about it just got good looking. So I don't know.
What I think part of it probably was for you? It was probably weaving in and out of making visual novels.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah. But I'm trying to think of, like, what anime I watched where I was like, oh, I want to watch anime again. Yeah. And I can't think of what it is. I know I was watching, like, Sweetness and Lightning with you.
Yeah,
we watched My Love Story.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of my roommates having a Crunchyroll account might have helped a little bit because I was a lot more amenable to just, like, watching whatever.
Yeah, you watched all of Tamers that way.
Yeah, and then, like, Madeline and I would watch whatever random-ass Yuri was on Crunchyroll, which wasn't a lot. And then I kind of, I think,
yeah.
And then I started
reading
reading a lot of Yuri. And then, I think that was kind of my delve back into anime and manga. Okay, yeah.
We got there.
I've created the timeline. Sorry, I had to, like, reverse engineer that.
Yeah, I feel like it is hard to recall that, though, yeah. And I think that reading Yuri was definitely one of those things that, like, wound up scooping me back up into feeling inspired to read more manga and then more just, like, anime and manga in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout outs to Dynasty Scans.
For
making that easily
literally
accessible.
like the most important pillar in American culture in the 2020s.
So true.
In the 2010s and the 2000s.
And
forever.
Delilah Deckert says, hello, I was wondering if there was a specific episode/location that was featured that really stood out to you as a cool place to check out. Bonus points, I guess, if it's now forever closed. Bonus question, should Stu keep the bleached streak in his hair? I don't know what he's up to now, but if I learned he kept the streak, I'd be pretty chuffed.
So, one of the funniest things about America's Greatest Otaku is you can tell that he gave up on it immediately, because in the opening shots and the ending shots where he's in the green screen room, you can see that it's like just the very tip of his hair still has the bleached streak, and that's it.
I genuinely feel like he did it just for the show to, like, look trendy.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Anything that stood out as a cool place to check out?
Gosh, I feel like, well, the Mormon Temple, no. That weird, like, maid cafe that had the Murakami and Yoshito Nara pieces seemed really weird.
That's such a, like, probably rich woman.
Oh yeah,
who has
without a doubt. Yeah, that is like
endeavor.
And
that's like the best kind of that.
Yeah,
I would love to see something.
Yeah, it seems like an extremely weird thing to immerse yourself in for like a half hour and then be done. But it's definitely closed forever.
This isn't a location per se, but I would love to meet the woman who was studying all the food manga.
Oh yeah.
She was definitely one of my favorite people they featured.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna get lunch with her. That's my location.
Yeah,
same. Himcat says, do you think we'll see another huge shift in perception and accessibility of anime and manga out west, or are we just gonna stay on the current trajectory?
I think that there's always going to be a little bit of an ebb and flow. I think we're seeing now the kind of unique challenges that come with a very fundamentally different culture's art conflicting with the kind of presumed values that mass media in the West has.
Yeah.
And I think that that's always going to be a push and pull, and I think that the kind of struggle to compartmentalize that and decide how you feel about it is always going to be a factor of art becoming mainstream when it's kind of removed of some of that context.
It is very interesting to go from being a kid who liked anime when nobody even knew the word anime And then growing up and going through art classes and art college, surrounded by teachers who were pretty transparently convinced anime had no future in America.
Yeah.
At least as an art style. And now, if you browse literally any YA section, like even just like kids' novels, like so many of the covers are just like anime style.
Yeah.
Like it's super interesting to see it become such a desirable like style. Obviously, I say style with a huge asterisk next to it. Like I take umbrage with the idea that anime is one unified style, but certainly the inspiration is easy to trace. And I'm curious if it's going to reach a saturation point where people grow tired of it. Because as much as I love anime, it does definitely have a little bit more of a unified look to it than I think we used to have in our animation. And I'm curious if that will continue on the same trend, or if, like, I even feel like just this season we're seeing like a lot more experimental things, but it's still like kind of safe.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if in the future, you know, either American consumers or anime as a whole will get kind of tired of the uniformity.
I almost wonder if we're starting to see a preemptive reaction to that now.
Maybe, but
especially
not too much.
Seeing the kind of boom of gaijin animators on this season, seeing them post their scenes and kind of like inherently being able to point out like the kind of Western animation sensibilities that are making it into anime. I think it's great. I also think that if anything, a byproduct of that we're going to have to reckon with as well is actually hearing unavoidably the working conditions that anime is made under.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I don't really have any like solid speculations because I don't feel like I have quite enough of a finger on the pulse of all that to have a logical conclusion.
Likewise.
But I am very curious to see where it's going to go in the future. I'm also curious to see if we'll see other countries' animation fields like kind of boom.
Yeah. It'd be really nice to see Korean animation get literally any amount of recognition and kickback given how much like outsourcing is
I'm
done
even
there.
just seeing like I know it's kind of what's the word, reductive to act like Genshin Impact is China's greatest export, because it certainly is not, but the popularity of Genshin Impact in combination with how things like danmei novels are getting incredibly popular, super popular, I'm wondering if that will eventually beget like a Chinese industry for animation, like, you know, outside of
there's
just
a lot
being
of Chinese
outsourced.
animation that gets made. I think that
but like as an export, I suppose.
I'm probably guessing way out of my league, so don't take this with any grain of fact, but from what I've gathered, it seems like a lot of Chinese animation is very what's the word? Like, it's very begotten to the kind of like standards, the cultural standards that are enforced on a lot of Chinese animation or on a lot of Chinese art in general. So it's like a lot of historical pieces and stuff like that that I think is kind of like approvable. Whereas I think that like things that don't need like a team of people to be made.
There's also, speaking of actually, that indie Chinese cartoons, well, I say indie, but I think it's funded by Tencent, as most things are. All Saints Street is getting a release on Crunchyroll with a Japanese dub, which is really surreal. Yeah, I don't really know, like, how that bodes for the future of, like, animation from, like, China or... maybe eventually Korea. It sucks to say it like this, but like other countries like China and Korea are getting like quote unquote trendier to the American consumer. And it's really shitty that like it boils down to consumerism like that. But you know, just on a baseline, I hope that we can see more stories and art from more countries. Kind of find a healthy industry. as a result of that. I've always hoped that, because I know a lot of animation is outsourced to the Philippines, that we could see maybe a little more
There's that
Filipino
film a while
indie
back,
animation.
but it was not reviewed well.
No, it was not. No, it wasn't. But, step in the right direction. Yeah. I've also always been curious where France went in the animation game, because I know that there's a lot of French animation up there, but I feel like it always just kind of remains as, like, at least to an American viewer, as, like, an artistic spectacle, but not really something to, like, regularly consume, which is kind of unfortunate. I don't know. And then that's not even to begin to speak of the zillions of other countries around the world that I would be curious what kind of animation they'd make, but animation's such a prohibitively expensive and labor-intensive process that,
There's no industry to support it. It's kind of hard for it to just appear out of thin air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shall see. Sorry, I kind of broadened the scope of that question to
Why not?
Something
The
else.
alternative is talking less. Why would we do that?
That's true. Lucy E, parentheses Sumrus, says, "Hi there, great video as always. Although it was super weird to see my university and soon professor in this video, let alone on America's Greatest Otaku." Wait, you can't just say that and not say what your university is. That's crazy.
I gotta assume it's the food manga woman.
Oh, I hope
God
so.
bless,
God bless.
So.
Oh, I hope she's still a professor. That's cool.
I hope she's still hyped about food manga.
Me too. Anyway, with YouTube's strict monetization policies, the threat of content ID, and copyright claims /strikes/takedowns, how do you as a creator select your sources for video and audio in your projects? What makes you confident that a film/anime/song will be safe for inclusion?
It's not too hard. You just kind of need to be careful about how long your clips are. And when it comes to music, if I'm ever trying to use something that's a little bit dicey, it just makes it low enough into the audio. It tends not to get caught. And in the event that it does get caught, it's as simple as just doing a test upload and then replacing it, not being too heartbroken.
Yep.
Yeah. The biggest thing is just making sure your clips are under a certain length. I feel like
I think putting derivative elements on, or not derivative, what do you call it? Just editing it in some way, like an overlay and some stuff kind of helps it not get auto-claimed too.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it doesn't just look like an unbroken clip of something.
Yeah. The byproduct of needing to cut a lot as well, keeping things under a certain length, is just that it's really it kind of forces you to make your edits more interesting because you're not holding on the same clip and not giving it the opportunity to get stale.
Yeah. Creamer says, "Love that your friend is from the same area of Tennessee that it says that grew up in, but I assume it's that I grew up in. LOL. Also, wondering if you work on a bunch of long videos all at once."
I do, yeah. I didn't used to because I just kind of couldn't. But I've started doing it because it is just a necessity for where my interest goes. I think I talked about it a little bit on Twitter, but oftentimes videos will reach bottlenecks where I just need to wait for a piece of research material to arrive, or I'm working my way through whatever it is I want to cover, or even just I'm still stewing on what I want to say and how. And being able to shift focus to other videos during that is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find when I'm working on long projects, it helps to have a couple different things I can bounce between if I get stuck. Morpheus says, "Hi Hazel, just wondering, in the past you've talked about not liking shonen manga or anime, but you've also mentioned how you're a big fan of Tatsuki Fujimoto. So I'm kind of curious about what a shonen work needs to do to appeal to your taste that can get you over the hurdle of being in a genre you don't really care for."
Having really hot women. No, seriously though, I feel like what I've said about shonen in the past has kind of assumed a familiarity with the specifics of what I'm talking about. But I do feel like I should specify. I just don't really like battle shonen. I don't like a lot of action shonen manga. I don't dislike action series. I just tend to like the seinen ones more generally. I think that like so much winds up in the shonen demographic that it's kind of reductive, if I have described it that way in the past, to simplify it to just like shonen storytelling, because obviously there's no monolith there. As far as what it takes for me to get interested in something like that, I just don't. It just needs to not have that like that kind of typical like shonen battle format that I know does a lot for a lot of other people. I certainly am not saying that like the problem is that they're all the same or whatever. I like slice of life anime. That is actually just all the same, basically, on a surface at that same level. So it's just more like the kind of storytelling that happens within them and the kind of morals that are being taught or whatever just aren't quite as engaging to me as other stuff.
What appeals to me is when a series isn't 1 million chapters long.
Yeah, that too. That does help.
Which most battle shonen is. So yeah. I will never read One Piece, no matter how hard you beg. I'm sorry. It's too long and it's not done yet. Vulcanite says, thank you for the video. I really felt the last bit where you talked about how lonely being an anime fan back in the day used to be. Remember how rare it was to find someone who also liked anime and manga back in middle/high school? However, I distinctly remember that a vast majority of my fellow LGBTQ friends were fans. So much so that our high school LGBTQ club often ended up doubling as the anime manga club. This isn't really a well-formed question, but do you have any thoughts about the intersection of liking unpopular media and being a part of a minority group? You discussed it a bit in your Elfen Lied video when it comes to works teen girls enjoyed, but I was wondering if you had more thoughts about the topic and how it plays with gender identity and sexual identity, especially during teenage years. Thanks again.
Yeah, my school's anime club was also majority LGBTQ kids. It's a little hard to kind of discern the chicken or the egg there.
I feel like you could write a thesis on this.
Yeah, definitely.
Like an actual college thesis.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely think there's a proclivity for queer children to gravitate towards niche media because inherently you find a small, intimate community there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I also think that there definitely are things that you could point to in a lot of anime and manga that I think are kind of like... I think that there's kind of like... When you get into works that are kind of about the struggle of being an individual in a highly like society-focused society that still operates in a very like cold and uncaring way to the individual, I think invariably that's going to resonate with people who are stuck in just about any kind of hegemony there is. And I think that like being a young gay kid in like a straight monoculture, I think that you could definitely kind of associate with a lot of the themes that go into that. Yeah,
I feel like any answer I could come up with to this question almost isn't like a big enough answer.
Right, yeah.
Like I feel like there's so much, like so many angles that which you could delve into it.
Just like really small facets of the conversation, for sure.
I definitely feel you on it. I'm pretty sure like every kid I was a weeb friend with grew up to be LGBT in some way. You know, I've joked before that the Fujoshi to lesbian / trans mask pipeline is real. Yeah. Marie Amari says, hi Hazel and Alyssa, amazing video as always. Since Halloween just passed, the topic of costumes and cosplay has been rattling around in my head. If you had to choose one character to cosplay, who would it be? Bonus points for Wander cosplay as well. Wander can be the dragon from Neverending Story. No.
I feel like I just wouldn't want to do anything where I'd have to wear a wig, because that seems really itchy and uncomfortable.
Really uncomfortable. I don't know how people wear them like for an entire weekend.
Yeah.
You know, I have been growing out my hair and dyeing it teal, so I would love to do like a proper Lum cosplay someday.
Yeah.
just gotta lose like 60 pounds. No.
I feel like I could do pretty much any Tatsuki Fujimoto character really easily because they all have black hair and are covered in beauty marks.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm like halfway there already.
You are.
All I need to do is either put on an eye patch
or a fake scar,
a suit, or a scar, and then I'm there.
And then you're like every Fujimoto character.
Yeah.
It would be really
and they're
funny.
all the most beautiful woman alive.
Yeah. It'd be really funny to see someone just like kind of put on some random scars and an eye patch and like a generic suit, and then
see how many people just guess.
Yeah. Like which Fujimoto character are you? Because there are several. It could be. Yeah, I mean, I want to do Lum. I've said before that I think Nanami Chiaki would be like an incredibly easy cosplay for me.
Yeah.
Wander. What could Wander be? Where's my little guy?
He's just a big chicken nugget already, so.
Yeah, I would,
we just need to spray paint him purple and then he can be Grimace.
No, we make a big Cane's box with some French fry and dipping sauce props.
And then he's the chicken tender.
And then he's the chicken.
Yeah, shout me out if you're a caniac.
Yeah. Leslie Marshall says, I know you don't tend to do cons, Hazel, but what's the first con either of you went to? What do you remember most about it? I believe my first con was Anime Expo 2005. I was 14. I remember it blowing my mind. I was the anime fan. I was the anime fan. I was bought a reverse blade sword, and I remember seeing so many anime DVDs with 3 episodes on them costing $50. Oh, I don't miss that at all.
Yep, absolutely.
I think 2003.
I was such a con late bloomer. I think it was literally a decade later than that for me. I think it was like 2013.
How old would I have been in 2003?
You would have been 11. Right?
Okay, I think it was 2005 then. I think Anime Expo 2005 was also my first con because I think I was 13.
Yeah.
It also blew my mind. I wrote extensive diary entries about every single day because I didn't want to forget a single thing that had happened. It was like an incredibly precious experience to me. I dressed up as Misaki from Angelic Layer, and my little sibling dressed up as Hikaru from Angelic Layer. It was extremely cute.
All of my memories of that first con were just really weird. I think it was Anime on Display was the name of it. It was like just outside of San Francisco. Really, really weird experience. A lot of really weird people. It was all weird. It was all really weird. I don't even want to talk about the things about it I remember most.
I don't know where this person's at these days, but back in the day, you want to talk about cringe culture. This was so mean. There was a cosplayer who made their fame by being man-fae, because it was a dude who dressed up as Faye from Cowboy Bebop, and everyone was so shocked that a dude would cosplay as a skimpy woman and have his butt cheeks hanging out. And to be fair, I think the negative reaction was something that he leaned into and found funny. Again, I don't know where this person's at these days. If things have changed since then, God bless them and Godspeed. But I remember I saw, quote unquote, the man fae standing in line for Anime Expo, and I was like, whoa, what the heck? I was introduced to Copic markers at that Anime Expo. It was my first time. Yeah, they had a whole panel where they gave out samples, not to keep, but to try.
Right. And
I got my mind blown by those, and I begged my parents for Copic markers, I think, that Christmas. I think that may have been the year that I also entered a Hari Hari Yukai dance contest. And I think
Was that the same con that had Momoi?
No, that was the next one I went to.
2006.
I don't think it was 2006.
Oh, yeah.
I think I went every couple of years. Yeah. Either 2007 or 2009.
Right.
What else did I see? I mean, I was there right before they banned yaoi paddles, so I saw a lot of yaoi paddles and a lot of girls hitting each other with them.
Yeah. Where are they now? I mean,
They're probably lesbians and they're married. You know they are. Or they're trans masks and they're married. God bless them, every one of them. I saw... Oh, you still see these sometimes, but I feel like way less often. They bring way less cool stuff and it's way more expensive. There is a booth of just like a shit ton of really cool anime cells, and they have them in like these big binders so you can flip through them. Yeah, you'll still see like anime cell sellers at cons sometimes, but it's a lot more like in an official capacity now. Back then I feel like it was just like random collections, so you could see like all kinds of cool shit for like really honestly pretty cheap at the time, at least in my memory. Maybe it wasn't, but I didn't buy any animation cells at that con. I don't think. I may have bought like a DigiCarrot cell or something of something random, but if I did, I don't remember it. And that was really cool and crazy to me, because the idea of like getting to see like a real life anime cell was like not even on the table to me.
Right, yeah. I remember first learning about cells as its own market in a Beckett Dragon Ball magazine.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Did they
were all like
explain
$300 billion.
in the
Yeah,
magazine?
I think I could kind of pick it up from context clues that those were the drawings that they used in the show.
Oh, were they just selling it in the magazine?
They
Like
were
you could
no, it was
order
more
it?
like price guides.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
I see. Interesting. Huh. But yeah, I'm sure there's like a million other random... Oh, and I was also there right at the end of the Chi boom, where like there was like a million Chi cosplayers from Chobits. Lots of Full Metal Alchemist. Lots and lots of Full Metal Alchemist. Yeah. Sorry, I just kind of ended up waxing nostalgic there, but you know. Kay Vecco says, "Hi Hazel and Alyssa, do you both like the same kind of music? If not, how do you share music that's special to you that the other might not care for? If not music, what about movies or video games? Thanks. Hope you do more watch-along streams."
I think generally speaking, Alyssa and I like a lot of the same stuff, but there are plenty of things that I like that I know Alyssa wouldn't like, so I don't feel the obligation to show them to her.
You know, back when I was driving us a lot and you were subjected to my music more. So Hazel and I kind of have a Venn diagram where like we have stuff in the middle that we both like,
right.
And it's a pretty big middle point. Mm-hmm. But then we have stuff on the edges of the Venn diagram that are kind of like just our music. And I'm not like opposed to showing it to Hazel, especially because Hazel is a musician and is very like observant. I feel like I can show her music that she won't even necessarily be into, but can like kind of find something interesting about.
There are very few musicians that you like that I don't also like, though.
Yeah, but like, you know, I can show you something that's not necessarily your taste and you'll have some kind of interesting thought or observation about it, and I love hearing what you have to say about it. So I love to show you stuff. And I've always enjoyed everything you've shown me, even the stuff that, again, isn't really my genre. I feel like...
You're funny because I feel like with media in general, I think you have a way wider breadth of things that you can enjoy than I think you give yourself credit for. Like, especially when it comes to movies and games and stuff. Who would have thought you'd get into Metal Gear, you know?
I know, right? Yeah, I listen to a really weird smattering of music, I feel like. I honestly just will listen to whatever can grab my ear.
Yeah.
If it is catchy in some way, and obviously that's an incredibly subjective thing, so what I deem catchy can be as weird as introducing Foxy's Shazam all the way to The Living Tombstone. No, I don't know. Right. I don't actually listen to Living Tombstone, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
As far as Hazel watches way more movies than I do. I think Hazel's much more of a general movie enjoyer than I am. I kind of have a hard time watching movies just across the board. Something about it being like an hour and a half plus of sitting and focusing on one thing is kind of a hard sell for me.
It's hard for me too.
Yeah. I am getting better about enjoying live action movies. I used to only watch animated movies. I made Hazel watch Knives Out with me the other day.
I thought it was great. I loved it.
I'm glad you loved it because I fucking love that movie. I love live action movies that are cartoonish.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I really like Harold and Maude for that reason. I really like...
I think they talk about Petaluma and Harold and Maude.
They do. They mention, I think, wine from Petaluma or something.
Sure.
Maybe eggs. I don't remember. And like fake mockumentary type movies I think are funny. Video games I feel like is our biggest crossover of enjoying the same things. Even if I don't like playing a video game, I'll enjoy watching it. And same goes vice versa for Hazel. Sometimes she doesn't play, she just watches me play. Or we'll watch someone else play it together. I don't think you've ever liked a video game where I was like, I don't get it, Hazel.
Yeah, I feel like likewise. I feel like there aren't too many instances where I just fundamentally can't see what you see in it.
Yeah. Video games are just easy to like to me, I think. Yeah. Because I've always joked about this, but video games are kind of the ultimate piece of media.
Right. It's got all the sights and sounds music, and feels.
It's got movie elements.
You can taste it.
You can taste it. You can smell it. I forgot where I was going with this.
I think we answered that.
Yeah, cool. I also hope we do more watch-along streams in the future, too.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Miyuki-chan in Wonderland with you and your
that was a legendary experience.
Penny Vath says, if it's not too late, hi. No, we're always late to do these, sorry.
Well, I also like to give them a good amount of time to begin with. I also have to find a week that they come out that doesn't conflict too much with when the podcast goes out. So.
I know you're a fan of Kira La Janice.
So want to hear something fucked up?
What's that?
Canadian people moment. It's pronounced Kayla. Kayla Janice. Yeah, Kayla you can see it once you see it like that, right?
No. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
Kayla, okay.
Yeah, I had to find footage of her saying her own name.
Kayla Janice's work, and I figured I would ask, what are your thoughts on Jane Arden's The Other Side of the Underneath? I was doing a huge project on her work for class and was wondering what you think, especially since you discussed R.D. Laing, whom Arden's work is closely tied to, in your Lane video.
I haven't seen it. I would really like to. I think that a lot of that kind of like the kind of like anti-psychology movement of like the 1920s and 30s, really loaded term, I know, has like a lot of really interesting tendrils, but I think a lot of it, just like a lot of philosophy, winds up being just that bit too theoretical for me to feel drawn to it. But that being said, what's that quote of hers? Or it might not be a quote. It might just be a general ethos that, like, to be a woman in society is to inherently be subjected to madness. I think she was on the money with that one.
Sorry. I'm having indigestion from drinking tea.
That's fine. Soda Boy asks, if modern you was told to plan and host America's Greatest Otaku Season 2 right after one finished, what would you change and what would the prize be?
So
barring the things that I have already talked about in the video, I will say, knowing where the YouTube platform is at now, I would definitely make it more YouTube-y. I would definitely make it more in line with the things that people who watch like anime video essays are interested in. So I would probably try to, just give like a history of more of the stuff that comes up. I would probably kind of lean into the fact that it's a little bit silly. I think there's a way to do that without it feeling like okay brand, you know? Yeah, I think the prize, I think, would probably still be a trip to Japan. I think that's too good not to not to do. I've still never even been.
I know. Someday.
I don't know. I said still like it's an expected thing.
Someday, because like everyone has vacationed in Japan at this point. Who like has any interest in it
and can afford it.
Yeah. Well, even people who can't afford it go.
Good for them.
Elijah Sadeki says, hey Hazel and Alyssa, and wonder if he's around, which he always is. He's sleeping on his cat tree right now. I really enjoyed the recent video. After seeing the shot of Megatokyo in the beginning, though, I was wondering if that was still planned to be a video topic. I remember reading it at my local library when I was a kid, and it being kind of my gateway into the anime world, so seeing it was a bit nostalgic, lol. I'm curious as to your thoughts on it and potentially other webcomics of the time.
I really love what I've read of it. It's got a 9/11 memorial strip, which is wild. The little angel-winged hamster is there for it, which is wild. I think that a lot of it is really charming and weird and kind of bittersweet in a way that I can't quite wrap my head around. That being said, I would never do a video that focuses solely on it because I don't think that there's a way to do that that is ethically correct.
Yeah, it's hard because I've also had like a simultaneous cringe curve with Megatokyo where I got into it early on in reading manga because I was like, whoa, an American manga, that's crazy. I gotta read it. And then I was really enamored with the idea of webcomics in general, as a lot of people were, because the newfound accessibility of the internet as a self-publishing platform was really exciting. And then I was like, oh, Megatokyo's super cringe, and that dude's super pathetic, which I think is kind of mostly where people are with it now. But, you know, I feel like that's a really mean-spirited take on it.
Yeah.
I certainly see why people think that it can be a little bit pathetic at times. Namely, just having a self-insert character who's being fawned over by a bunch of fictional Japanese girls is a little bit eyebrow raised, but I feel like shit even saying that because I know the dude is still online. Like, the dude uses Twitter.
Like, he's literally just like a bus driver now. Like, he's a fucking like worker. He's a laborer now. Like,
dude, and he's always has been. It's always been hard for him to support the comic, but he is still making it. Which, first of all, I respect the fuck out of that. He's still making that webcomic,
even if nobody even wants to see it.
And he's been with his wife like since the beginning of the comic, and they're like raising kids. And it's like I feel really sad that people are so comfortable like making these assumptions and like dismissals of him as a person.
I think a kind of quiet sadness and out of placeness is at the fundamental core of Megatokyo. And I think seeing how much that kind of is a reflection of reality with just like the careers of the people involved. Like even the other guy, Largo, that dude's so weird. He's like a twice failed libertarian politician.
Yeah, his Wikipedia page is crazy.
It's the funniest shit in the entire world. Like there's just kind of like, it's such a weird thing beyond it just being a time capsule. And that's the other thing, like, I genuinely, like, that is a resource that I have used when trying to wrap my head around what the Western perception of Bishoujo games were like in the 2000s.
Because he was so into Bishoujo games, and I was really interested in Bishoujo games as a kid, but didn't have access to them.
Yeah.
So hearing about his, like, hearing his posts about it, reading his posts about it was, like, really fascinating to me as a kid, and I really, like, I guess respect his eagerness to share information about that. And, you know, obviously reading a dude's Twitter doesn't mean that you know them, but I skimmed it semi-recently, back when I was like, what's this guy up to? And he seems like he's a good dude. He seems like he's got his heart in the right place about a lot of issues. He seems like...
I think the thing about the internet is that I often think creators have a kind of... like there's like an area of effect, right? So when somebody like Ken Penders becomes this like god king for cringy comic writers who do all of these things and all of that, I think that kind of inspires a default lens that you can use and certainly Control as well as another webcomic example specifically. It creates a predetermined lens for which to view other things or people like it. So I think people look at the Megatokyo dude and they see his like people always harp on the like unfinished kickstarted or crowdfunded or whatever game that never got finished, and like those are things that kind of haunt him, and I think a lot of it is honestly really unfair. Like, you know, I think that as we look back at the kind of legacy of Kickstarter, I think that kind of expectation that every piece of art gets made is kind of...
Well, they recently changed their policy too, where you can't... I think unless I don't know the specifics, so sorry if I get the details wrong, but it used to be no matter how far ago a project was, if they don't fulfill, you could ask for a refund.
Right.
I think they changed it and kind of like made it clear, like, you are kickstarting this at your own risk.
Yeah.
If they can't fulfill it, or like if they can't fulfill it to the degree that you thought, or if you're disappointed with the final product,
like that's
the risk you take.
Yeah. And I think that,
I think that's a much better
I think that the important thing about that is that I think it will invariably reduce the amount of people who are kickstarting as a pre-order.
Yeah.
Because I think those are the people that are most likely to get mad about not getting their money's worth.
Yeah.
Like, I think what you need to recognize is at the end of the day, like, again, this isn't a guy who's, like, rolling in money who just decided to keep all of that for himself. Like, he's working a day job, you know? Like, and he has been this whole time. That being said, I don't know all of the lore about the Mega Tokyo guy. I don't know all of the lore about Mega Tokyo. I've only read the first 100 strips.
I'm sure, like most people putting out content in that era of the internet, it's got problems.
Right, of course. Of course.
And I'm sure it had problems. And I know he kind of got a reputation for being like a drama queen. But you also have to keep in mind, like, that was an era pre-influencers when nobody
the book hadn't been written on how to be
knew how to be visible and accessible online in the way that, like, in my mind, he was kind of one of the first. The first time I ever heard of Twitter was the Mega Tokyo guy advertising his Twitter as like kind of a almost like as a brand new RSS feed.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. All that's to say that, like, obviously I think Mega Tokyo is kind of fundamentally a little bit funny. Yeah. There are definitely things about it in retrospect that are cringy. There's definitely probably flaws with it and its creation and its story. But at the end of the day, I can't help but respect Piro and what he made and how much he put into it, how much he continues to put into it. The fact that it still updates is crazy to me. And he seems like just a dude. He's just some dude. I feel like it's a kind of and this isn't me admonishing the question asker, because obviously they still had some fondness for it too, but rather the public perception of Mega Tokyo is like this sort of like Hitalia-esque thing.
It's like the Onceler for Weeaboo.
Yeah. It's like, I don't think it's that bad. Yeah. I really don't think it's that bad. Yeah. And I think it's kind of mean to treat it like the creator isn't around to hear and see the things that people say about it. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but that being said, it will come up in a video eventually, probably not where you expect, and I think that hopefully the angle I take with it is one that is all-encompassing, but not necessarily, I don't know.
In a lot of ways, I think Mega Tokyo, like, is the graphic novel equivalent to America's Greatest Otaku.
Definitely.
In many of the same ways, in many of the complicated ways, but also in many of the, like, kind of heartwarming ways.
Definitely. Definitely.
Let's see.
I think we're on Saoirse next.
Oh, thank you. I lost my spot.
Yeah.
Saoirse says, "Hiya, Hazel and Alyssa. Love the videos always. I love the little IRL segments, especially. They're always so cozy. I recently read Otaku Japan's Database Animals and Beautiful Fighting Girl. Are there any books or things in a similar vein that tackle similar issues from a queer perspective or from a woman's perspective? There are little hints of both in those texts that I found really interesting, and I was a little disappointed neither pointed me in the direction of more. As a side note, thanks so much for recommending House of Psychotic Women. It arrived recently, and I'm really enjoying tearing into it."
Yeah, I really hate that there aren't more of them that have been translated. I can tell you right now that they do exist. Mari Kotani in particular is a writer who has written empathetically about otaku from a feminist's perspective. And every little snippet I've had of her insight has been really invaluable to me, but there's just so little of it. Mm-hmm. There's really not a lot of it, and I think that is just kind of a byproduct of the academic space being so male-centric. Mm-hmm. And I think the book kind of being written on, like, academic research about anime. Like, I think so many of those books got published in, like, the 2000s, and Yeah, so like that's kind of unfortunate. That being said, I haven't read it yet, but Erica Friedman of YuriCon recently put out a book about the history of Yuri that I haven't read it yet.
I need to read it so bad.
I have it right here. It's called By Your Side: The First 100 Years of Yuri Anime and Manga. I feel like that is obviously more of a history than it is like a book that kind of delves into the psychology and philosophy of the art. But I think that in the same way that Database Animals and Beautiful Fighting Girl both have segments that are looking at a history of an artistic medium through a particular lens, like that of otaku and postmodernism, I think that is kind of where the similarity comes in with this book about Yuri. So that's the most that I can recommend. Erica, from everything that I've seen so far, is an extremely thoughtful and extremely thorough historian. So I have my full faith in this text when I actually do get around to reading it.
Yeah, I need to read it really badly.
Yeah, me too.
Jean says, I think that in a previous Q&A you mentioned you were playing Higurashi. Do you have any specific thoughts on it that you feel confident in talking about?
No, I wasn't playing it. I watched a little bit of the anime and I was really enjoying it. So I told myself that I would stop so that I could read it. But I haven't started that yet because I do most of my visual novel reading in bed and I can't do that if it's on my computer. So I need to get that sorted out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Womp womp. Data Fox says, what would be an otaku tour of Japan? What would an otaku tour of Japan be like for you if you planned one?
I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier. I really want to go to
shrine.
Washinomiya Shrine. I really want to go to, I mean, like the obvious shit, right? Like, duh, I want to go to Akihabara. You know, duh, I want to visit Shibuya. Like, duh. Like, there's so many foregone conclusions that I would love to see. Yeah.
I really want to visit.
Fucking rest in peace, Anna Miller's, though.
I know. I would love to go to an Anna Miller's.
Rest in fucking peace.
I have a couple friends I want to visit, and one of them lives a little bit closer to Tokyo, and one is like an hour or two train ride away from Tokyo.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of have to make a trip.
She lives kind of near the coast, doesn't she? Or am I misremembering?
I think she's actually a little more inland.
Okay. Either way, I would really like to see places that aren't like the cultural hotspots.
Yeah,
I think that it would be a little
somewhere normal.
Yeah, like I get for something like America's Greatest Otaku, you kind of have to keep it centralized just for the sake of having an itinerary that can actually be followed through on. But if we were to visit, I would really like to see places that aren't just like the epicenters.
Yeah, yeah. That being said, I know that like auction, I think Mandarake has a few physical locations,
and I think
Melon
Melon Books as well.
Yeah,
and Toranoana.
Yeah.
I think Toranoana also closed.
It's sad.
Fuck.
But I'd love to go visit that. Obviously, I've said a million times it's like my dream to go do the Dolphy Dream Choice.
Yeah.
At one of Volks's physical locations.
Yeah.
I just want to eat good food.
Yeah, I think for the sake of not like starving, I would probably have to admit defeat and break edge for some of the like fish stocks and stuff that makes it into everything. I wouldn't be very happy about it, but I think that there are only so many times I can say, I'm sorry, is this vegetarian? Does this have meat in it? Before I just kind of have to give in.
Live Moss.
Yeah, it's for a week or whatever, then it'd be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my laundry list. And I want to go to Lickacheng Castle. That's my other. That's for an eventuality when I can go to Japan, hopefully with both you and my sister. She and I have always talked about wanting to go to Licca Castle and make our own Licca dolls.
Yeah.
Omen Machine says, hi Hazel and Alyssa, if you were a Pokemon gym leader, what types would your gyms be and what Pokemon would be on your teams? Oh fuck, this is a really fun question that's really hard to answer. Alternatively, if you don't want to be restricted to one type, what Pokemon would be on your dream teams?
I think for the sake of simplicity will stick to one type.
Yeah.
I think for me it would probably be ice. I feel like the obvious choice would be like dark or ghost or whatever. But I think that like the ghost, dark, psychic, whatever, like spooky girl archetype has already been filled in Pokemon a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say I'd probably be
I feel like there's
ice.
still a lot of thematic directions you could go with ice outside of just the aesthetic of ice.
Right, definitely. I really, really like how this new Pokemon game is doing that thing where the gym leader doesn't necessarily have to have Pokemon that are all within the same type, because one of them can just terrestrialize to that type.
It's been really challenging too, because I can't just go in with one Pokemon that they're weak to and wipe them all so easily. I've still been doing it because my Tinkaton is extremely overleveled, but
God bless.
I'm not good at Pokemon, so I need this. It's hard because my impulse is to say fairy type, but I think I would also have a lot of fun being a normal gym leader. There aren't enough normal gym leaders. They do a really funny thing with the normal gym leader in this game. Oh, there is one in this game? Yes, there is, and he's really funny.
Huh, that's exciting.
I'm excited for you to see him. I don't even want to spoil what his thing is.
Yeah. I've put so much time into this game, and I still only have, like, 3 badges, I think.
Yeah. I finished, I beat the Elite Four. I finished the Titans. I still need to finish the Star Bases. And then I need to dive into the Made in the Abyss hole. But I was gonna say my impulse is to say fairy type because a bunch of the pink Pokemon are fairy types, but my favorite Pokemon's Hatena, and I think Hatena's only fairy or
only
psychic.
Yeah, I don't think it's psychic fairy.
Yeah, I think it's just psychic.
Well, that's your exception that you can terrestrialize into being fairy.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. Hatena is my number 1 favorite Pokemon. But Tinkaton is definitely making her way up there.
Yeah. I'm gonna just, like, assemble, like, a fucking 4 Pokemon team, because they tend to have that. Like, I'm not gonna assume that this gym leader is gonna have all 6 Pokemon. Like, that never happens. But,
let's see. Well, you have to have, Frostlass, obviously.
Yeah. Probably definitely someone on the Vanillite line.
I also think that, like, gimmick gyms that don't rely necessarily on types as much would be fun. Like, imagine like so there is a baker in this one, but she's a bug gym leader. Yeah. Which I thought was kind of weird. So it'd be fun to have like a gym leader who only has food-themed Pokemon.
Yeah. I do really like Ice Cube.
Yeah, Ice Cube is
It looks like
funny.
a Gregory horror character. I absolutely love it. Probably have a Smoochum. I'm trying to think about like a...
I love Snom.
Yeah, I gotta have Frostmoth. I love that motherfucker. Sneasel for sure would be on there. It's probably more or less it.
Yeah, I don't know what my team would be. I'm bad at thinking of Pokemon off the top of my head, so I would have to like sit down and make a list and then like start eliminating them, and then
it would be really cute to try to actually act on that, and then have like with all of our friends kind of limit ourselves to one type and then go through like a bracket to see who wins. It'd be really cute.
Yeah.
We've been playing it off and on with some friends of ours. And it's been really augmenting the experience.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Yeah, I really like Violet and Scarlet.
Yeah, I'm really impressed.
Extremely fun.
I went in thinking I was going to be hater number 1.
You weren't even going to play it.
I wasn't even going to play it.
You're like, do I want to make a file? I don't know. And then you're like, okay, I will. Now you're having a great time.
I am.
Yeah, my team would just be all pink Pokemon of some kind. So that was our last question, but I was so convinced, because we talk about visual novels so much on your Q&As, that I would have more of a natural opportunity to talk about it.
Go ahead.
So eventually when Love in a Bottle comes out, it's coming out under Studio Bell House, which is a subdivision of Studio Elan. And Studio Elan's whole thing is doing like just WLW, mostly fantasy games. Not all fantasy, but to some degree. And Studio Elan just put out Please Be Happy. It's their new like big game that's been in the works for a few years. A lot of really beloved friends of mine had a huge hand in making it, and like everyone else on the team is just lovely. Like I really love Studio Yalllllll and like really believe in everything they're doing. I got to play test the entire game before it came out. It just came out earlier this week, and I have no reservations, like highly recommending it if you like Yuri visual novels or fantasy visual novels. It's really sweet. It is a pretty sizable game. If you play both the routes, God, it took me a few days of playing off and on. But it's not so long that it's like impossible to finish, within a few days. So you get your money's worth for sure. But it's not intimidatingly long, is what I'm trying to say. It's just really beautiful and sweet and like a really heartfelt story about a lot of different themes that weave in and out of each other really well. The main character, Miho, is incredibly lovable, and I hope this doesn't sound backhanded to other English visual novels with voice acting, but I'm really picky about English voice acting because, I don't know, I get annoyed easily by voices if they're not like really well directed, and I tend to like mute most English visual novels that have English voice acting. This is the first time I've like actually not only enjoyed the English voice acting, I don't know why I'm saying English as if it was translated from Japanese, you know what I mean, but I felt like the voice actors like contributed a lot to the characters, which I thought was like really special, especially Aspen's voice actress. She's the human love interest, really brought a lot to the character. I went for the hot futchy vampire first, but Aspen ended up winning me over. So this is my way of saying you should definitely go buy Please Be Happy. I got to write like a teensy tiny bit of like around the town exploring flavor texts. Yeah, my friends put a shit ton of work into it, and it's like a really beautiful, polished, well-made game. It was a blast playtesting it.
The soundtrack is really amazing.
The soundtrack is fantastic. Like, I only have good things to say about it. It's really great. It's a very like cozy game to play. It's very heartfelt, but not in the trite sense of cozy games.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's like trying to sell itself as being like some like overly wholesome experience.
Yeah, it's not cloying. Like, yeah. I feel like it manages to be sweet in a very genuine way. So if you're in the market for just like a cute Yuri game, please go play Please Be Happy.
And with that, that's the end of this Q&A. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
This should be uploaded the same day we record it, but we'll see.
Thanks for letting me advertise at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to open that package. Goodbye, everybody.
Woo! Bye, everyone.